Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome. It is Friday, and the Rob Brown Show's on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back in, y'all. Great to have you on a Friday morning and a biggin'. Ladies and gentlemen, the show is locked and loaded and ready for your enjoyment. My name is Rob Brown. The pleasure is exclusively mine. Directly on the other side of the metaphorical glass this AM, the gentleman in charge of broadcasting everything that goes over the airwaves from this station and others, Colonel Grudge, hashtag Dad Kicks, the Wizard of Wave, the Sultan of Swag, the Professor of Perfection, the great one Lonzo is here as well. What up, Zo?
It's so nice to be on a day when we ain't got nothing going on. Just nothing at all. Nothing at all. No guests in the studio. No wrestling tonight. Oh yeah. It is Friday. It's Friday Night SmackDown tonight. We're gonna be there. I will be wearing the shirt. By the way, you can see what shirt I'm wearing if you go on the stream: Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. So come up and say hey. Don't say a whole lot after that. Just hey will work.
Hug Lonzo. He's a big
no. Do not hug me.
Lonzo's in Bailey's club. Hug life.
I'm in Bailey's new club.
The Karen Club.
Yes, that's me. Absolutely.
The reason we're saying this, ladies and gentlemen, aside from the fact that WWE Friday Night SmackDown is in Greenville, South Carolina this evening, live at the Bon Score Wellness Arena this evening, where Lonzo and I will both be attending that show.
Just us and thousands of our friends.
Yeah. Aside from that, coming up at 10:45 this morning for a full half hour, we will have live in the studio with us your reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Intercontinental Champion. He is the Ring General, Gunther. Will be joining us at.
You're not even going to try. You're not even going to try.
Well, here's the thing. What I know might happen if I go all out is I don't want him to be like, terrible job, you get chopped, right? Like that's the last thing I want is to insult Gunther, and while I'm sitting here trying to do an interview, just catch one of the most violent blows in the game right across the chest and cave what I don't have in the way of pecs all the way in.
You know what? I do want to see that. So insult away. I'm safe over here. Not that he can't walk around the console because he absolutely could, but you know.
Joey B texted me this morning, right? He's driving and he tells me that he's like, yo, traffic is all jacked up around the arena because the trucks just got here, right? They travel overnight from wherever they were. They show up. He said the trucks just got here, so traffic around the well is a little jacked up as they try to unload the big rigs at the well and get everything set up for tonight.
They usually park them back by the cemetery.
Yeah, but they got to bring them into the arena.
I know, but
them, right?
It was cool back in the day when there was Undertaker.
Oh, they still do.
I don't know if Undertaker's still on the side, but the Undertaker in the cemetery behind him, I just always like
we will park in that parking garage just so we can walk by the trucks on the way in because I'm a huge dork. Anyway, Joby's telling me this, and I go, yeah, by the way, Gunther's on at 10:45. If you want to listen to that, you got any questions for me, let me know. Joe's a big wrestling guy. And he said, take a chop. And I was like, Joey B, I'm a 38-year-old man. Well, 37-year-old man. I turned 38 in like 2 weeks.
So that would imply that there are no wrestlers that are your age. Everybody's younger than you.
No. But the difference is they're wrestlers. I am a fat piece of human garbage. Okay? I got nothing to protect me. Like he chops Brock Lesnar. Brock's got a little bit of padding to him, right? He chops Otis. Otis is protected a little bit. If he chops me, it may just remove a hand-sized section of me from me.
All right, let me just
Joey B, I'd like to make it to 38, and Joe goes, I'll give you $5.
By the way, I got 5 over here to right on top of Joe's. I'll throw in 5 too. Now you got 10. Look at that. And you know what? If you lose a part of you, you've been trying to do that anyway. So, I mean, there's that. That is the ultimate weight loss program. Have Gunther just chop the weight off of you.
Oh, dude. So here's the thing. This is what I'm really excited about. He was already in the building this morning. He was on with the Rise guys this AM. And we've already got a couple of guys who have come in. We got a text a minute ago that said, I watched Gunther on the Rise guys. He is so nice. This is always fun to me because Lonzo and I are both fans. And so when we get these guys in the building, there's always kind of this delicate dance that we try to do between open. We always want to open. We talked about this yesterday. Every wrestler we have on, Lonzo and I always open the interview with the line of questions that allows them to answer either in kayfabe, in their character, or as themselves, as actors, as people. And you can tell usually within a question or two what direction they want to go, right? Like we had Lacey Evans on.
Yeah, we had no chance with Lacey.
Lacey was kayfabe from the get.
We barely could talk.
Yeah, like from the minute that Lonzo got the phone call, she was like, Lacey Evans, put me on, right? Like, and it was just her. She hung up on us. It's the only guest we ever had that hung up on us.
Which was great, by the way.
It was fantastic.
It was great.
And then we've had other guys, like we had Matt Hardy on, and we gave Hardy a couple of opportunities to answer in kayfabe or as in his real life, right? And his discussion, it was very clear that he wants to talk wrestling as a fan. Like he just wants to talk like a fan. And so we were able to ask Matt Hardy career questions. Here's what is interesting about Gunther, who will be on at 10:45. His character is so damn intimidating, right? He's just a total badass. But everybody I have talked to in the building that's interacted so far is like, he's mild-mannered. He's very polite. He's very kind and gracious. Like, he's a super nice dude. And I'm just really intrigued to, like, kind of dive into that a little
All right,
bit.
so I have this skill, a life skill, a curse. There's a lot of ways to look at it. I haven't met anyone I can't make angry. I haven't met anyone that I can't make angry. I'm not saying I'm going to try. But I think some people just walk in the room with me and they get mad because I'm there. I'm not being cocky. It's not a good thing, by the way. It's got me in a lot of trouble, my mouth. So there's a shot that I may say something that might cause Gunther to just reach out and chop Rob Brown. And I'm not going to say that that's a goal.
Cool.
Not because I would never want to see. By the way, someone's throwing up a 50 if you do it. So that's, you got $60 going for you right now. $60
from a dude
$60
that other wrestlers don't want to get chopped by.
I wonder if any of the Rise guys got chopped.
Not a chance. Zero chance.
Come on. Fat Boy had to step up.
Zero chance.
He had to step up and say, let's do this.
0% chance. To the texter who just said you watched him over there, did any of them even offer to take one? 0% chance. None at all. All right, so that's coming up at 10:45. We will have WWE Intercontinental Champion Gunther live on the show with us for about a half an hour.
You know why? Because all the big stars right here on this fine program.
I mean, listen, they sent out the email and they're like, Gunther's available for in-studio interviews. And basically, there were a bunch of requests, but they're like, yeah, Rob and the Rise guys, like those are the shows, right? The Rise guys and Rob are getting this guy.
It's going to be a good couple of weeks for us. First, we had Shane Beamer. Now we're going to have Gunther.
Yeah.
I mean, is it Gunther or is it Gunther? But see, do you try to do it in that accent? Because that could be offensive. That could get you chopped, Rob. If you do that the wrong way, that could get you chopped.
That's not an accent, right? That's like when somebody.
If you say Gunther, that's an accent. It absolutely is.
If I go to Anderson, it's still milk. It's not milk, right? But
no, it's milk.
Milk.
It's milk.
Or pillow. No, it's a pillow. There's an I right there. But if you go to Austria, where he's from, it's pronounced Gunther. That's not an accent. That's how the name's pronounced.
Yeah, but you can't do that way. You must use the American accent.
No, not at all. I call Germany Deutschland. I call it Brazil.
It's like those losers that can roll their R's. So
all right.
annoying.
So we got Gunther coming up at 10:45. Very much looking forward to that interview. We will have Gunther live in studio. And the only thing I really hope he brings that belt. I really want a picture with the Intercontinental Championship.
I got to admit,
which, by the way, might be my favorite championship.
I have never held, and I don't know if you will be allowed to, but I have never held an official belt. I've held the replicas. Have you ever held an official belt?
I have not. I've seen them. I've been around.
I've never seen one up close.
You know what? I am lying to you. I actually, the only one that I ever held was at WrestleMania 30. I held the Divas Championship once.
It's still a belt. It was a belt for a while.
That was the worst one ever. The Divas.
How are you able to hold the Divas belt?
Because
who let you hold it?
Well, I was in a room. I was actually covering that for the TV station I worked for at the time. They sent me over to cover WrestleMania for the TV station, and they basically had like a champs panel with all of the media, or a lot of the media that was there if you put in for it. And so I went in, and basically all the champions were coming through, and I want to say it was strapped on one of the Bellas at that point, but basically they had all the championships on a table, and at the end of the presser, they were letting people come up. And so I like waited. I mean, I played my hand wrong. I waited because I'm like, I'm going to go up there last, right? Like, I'm going to go up to the table last so I can get selfies with every one of these belts. The wrestlers were doing one-on-one interviews, and the belts were left on the table. And so I walked up there, and as I got there, the guy who was running the interviews, a young man by the name of Gunther Rose, walked into the room.
You know, I've heard of him.
Yeah. Gunther Rose walked into the room, and he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, the media press conference has come to its conclusion. We would like to escort y'all over into the next room. We'll get you set up for your one-on-one interviews." And I was like, and the only belt that was in front of me was the Divas Championship. And I'm like, screw it. This is going to make for a great picture, which I cannot find anymore, by the way. And then they brought me in the next room. And in that room are Triple H, Batista, Orton, Daniel Bryan, all the folks in that main event that year. They had everybody in there, and they basically said they put all the media in the line. And they said this is only at WrestleMania, but they put all the media in line because there were hundreds of us, right? So they put us all on a line, and they're like, we're going to, basically luck of the draw who you get to interview, right? Like a wrestler, everybody gets, I think you got like 7 to 10 minutes with a wrestler to interview them. And then once you're done, you can go to the back of the line, but it's luck of the draw. Whoever's available, that's who you get. And Rob Brown, after holding the Divas Championship, got to interview the Funkadactyls. But
one of them ended up being
Naomi turned into a monster down the years. So it was cool. I got to interview them. Oh, and I got to interview Zack Ryder. Woo, woo, woo. Which was amazing. Zach's the Rob Gronkowski of wrestling. He's great.
I was going to say, from what I can tell, he's a pretty good interview.
It's phenomenal.
So.
And I got to interview Dolph Ziggler, who's also, I'm a big Dolph Ziggler fan.
He's had staying power.
Yeah.
I mean, he comes in and out of relevancy, but he's just always there.
Perfect mid-card final boss.
Ex-cheerleader.
They did, by the way, yesterday announce that
yes, I know.
The Tribal Chief will be in attendance tonight. So Roman, if you're in the hood, if you happen to have gotten here already and be listening, I will go ahead and make the special plea to the Tribal Chief. I am from Pensacola, Florida, originally. I am from the Tribal Chief's hood. So if the Tribal Chief is listening and would like to call in and be on the show and potentially air any grievances before this evening's show, the airwaves belong to you, Tribal Chief. 844-326-3663, 844-326-3663. And Paul Heyman, if you're in the area and would like to serve as a mouthpiece, you're welcome as well.
All right, I will not acknowledge you. I will not acknowledge you. I'm not going to do it. Rob can do it. I will not do it.
If the Tribal Chief calls the show, he will be acknowledged.
Not by me.
He will be acknowledged.
Not by me.
Some of us understand that you just got to do whatever it takes to be the best. So
I'm a big J fan right now. So no.
Put your ones up. Anyway, if the Tribal Chief's in the hood or Paul's in the hood, hey, I don't know if they caught it, but the Usos kind of have a special place on this show as well.
They do.
They do have a very special place on the show. So anyway, Gunther at 10:45 coming up in about an hour and a half from right now. Coming up on the radio broadcast today, ladies and gentlemen, we are chock-a-block full of other things that we need to get into. I have got for you coming up in the very next segment. Y'all know that the great one, Lonzo, is very, very powerful in the world of sports talk media. He is both a king maker and kin slayer when it comes to media. He can build you up or bring you down. And there is a broadcaster that Lonzo pointed his ire at to begin this week that a very interesting story broke about yesterday. I'll tell you what that is coming up here in just a minute. Now that we've had a couple of days to put it in the back pocket, we'll take one look back at the composite ratings of the 2023 recruiting classes for Clemson and South Carolina. We talked yesterday a little bit about the Frank Reich regime with Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast. We said in that pod that there is another coach already joining Frank Reich's staff coming down from Dan Campbell's staff in Detroit. And the more I've read about it, the more I've learned about it, the more excited I am. Dabo Swinney has given some thoughts and some comments on exactly why he decided to pull the trigger on an offensive coordinator change and why Garrett Riley was ultimately named the dude. I'll give you the comments from Dabo Swinney coming up later on in the show. This Sunday evening, and I'm very excited about this Sunday is the Clash at the Coliseum. The boys of NASCAR, for the first time, will be spinning competitive laps, and they do it in the Coliseum out in L.A. California will host the first competitive NASCAR race of the year. That's interesting. What's more interesting is that NASCAR has actually changed up a handful of rules for this season that I think could have a drastic impact on the competition. We'll talk about that as well. We have got a ton of things coming up. If you want to be a part of the show, 844-326-3663, 844-326-3663. Text us on the text line at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we'll read them on the air. Let's take a break. We'll come back. What, or I should say who, did Lonzo get a broadcasting network to question just by being him? I'll tell you next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
I'm so intrigued.
Kevin said I was a BMW. It's next Tuesday. I will be doing the BMW driving experience. I don't know how it's going to go. I do know that there's a little redneck racing in this old boy. There's a little redneck racing here in Rob Brown's veins, so we'll see how I do. My goal is to not end up backwards. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. It's a good question, Trey. That could be interesting. Philip says, done right by WWE. Gunther should be a megastar for them, would be a great international star. I think he's already well on the way, Philip. Absolutely think he's already well on the way. I mean, they've obviously got a lot of trust in him, making him the Iron Man in the Royal Rumble, at which he did a phenomenal job. We will ask him about that. I mean, again, like, what doesn't the guy have, right? Like, he's got a phenomenal ability on the microphone. He stood eye to eye. Put it this way. He stood eye to eye with Brock Lesnar. And Lonzo and I both had the same reaction. We didn't text each other that night, but both of us came in the next day and we're like, yo, that moment where he stood face to face to Brock was a moment that pointed out a rivalry that I didn't know I wanted, but now I have to have. And we will ask him about that. There's really nothing missing from this guy, right? Like, he can go in the ring. He's good on the mic. He's got flair. He's got a European style, but he's Americanized it, I think. Like, there's There's not much that's not on the table for this cat. You guys.
Don't do that, Rob.
I stopped it.
One of them their algorithms caught whatever that was.
All hail the algorithm.
You're going to put us back in jail.
All hail the algorithm.
Your praise seems legitimate. No, Stephen, I am not. They have hair regulations. I can't do it. My days of driving fast are over, which is why I, drive like a hatchback, and I'm always in the right lane and never exceed the speed limit. And I got a nice brown toned hatchback because brown is slow.
Been working to develop my.
So anytime I say the word brown, you just automatically think I'm talking about you. I'm talking about.
I think
talking about how slow the car is. I mean, brown is a tone of slowness, isn't it? When you think of
now it's personal.
Well, you think of a slow car
brown
and the color
slow.
Yeah, exactly. That's the tone I use too. When you think of color cars, when you think fast car, what do you think? What color? What's
Red.
The fastest color? Red, right. What's the slowest color of a car?
I've never considered it.
Me either, but
red.
But we're doing it.
All the other colors.
Well, if there's a fast tone color, it's got to be a slow tone.
No. I'm gonna go with there's.
That's because who was driving it, Kevin? Lee Majors, man. He don't drive slow. Hey Rob, I just thought of something, and this is really important. And you're going to say thank you, Lonzo, for thinking of this, and this will our listeners will appreciate it to no end, because you failed recently with a guest by not asking Shane Beamer about the hot dog. Not only can you ask Gunther about the hot dog, we got some international flavor, dude.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. I'm not going to ask Gunther about the hot dog. Shane Beamer to ask okay, let me put the hot dog question in perspective because some of y'all don't get it, okay? The hot dog question is not for everybody, right? There's no reason to ask Gunther the hot dog question because it is an upstate South Carolina specific question.
Yeah, but I am curious, hot dogs in Europe, what comes on them? He's from there. You could ask him that question.
But you guys, the origin of the question is not, I don't care what you put on your hot dog. I don't care. I don't care if you put mayo or ranch dressing or chili cheese. I don't care what you put on the hot dog. It is not about the toppings on a hot dog. It is about the upstate's belief that a hot dog is a chili dog when it's not, right? So the question is irrelevant to anybody that is not directly connected here. If I have James Skalski, former Clemson linebacker, now assistant coach on the defense at Oklahoma on the show, and he's playing for Clemson, then that's a question that makes sense. Shane Beamer coaching in Columbia, makes sense to ask him the hot dog question. And if and when we get him on a live stream, hopefully in the spring, I will certainly ask him that question when we have a little bit more time. We had 17 minutes, and I wanted to get as many football questions as we could. If somebody moves here or moves from here and we get them on the show, the hot dog question is relevant. The hot dog question isn't relevant if you have not moved from elsewhere to here or from here to elsewhere and are joining the show. If we get on the show, Brian Bresee after he makes it to the NFL, right? If Bresee gets drafted by the Panthers or the Falcons, and we get Brian Bresee on the show, former Clemson defensive tackle, and we talk to him, and I go, all right, man, hey, you're over in the ATL now. What's the generic hot dog in the ATL, and is it what you expect? That makes sense because he's from this area, and vice versa. What Gunther eats on a hot dog is irrelevant to the actual conversation, which is upstaters believe that hot dogs by default have chili, and I'm trying to prove to you that no, that's a chili dog. No one else says that.
All right, on behalf of the Armada, I apologize. I tried. I did. I tried. So don't come at him after the interview asking him why he didn't do it.
I just told you.
He just told you. So sorry,
Now, while Alonzo did the best he could to intervene on behalf of the Rob Brown Armada, Lonzo has done something that caused an intervention. There was a report that dropped yesterday that said that CBS sports executives are now very concerned with the performance of one
Rob Gronkowski.
Tony Romo.
Oh, okay.
Rob's on Fox.
Yeah, okay.
CBS has got Nance and Romo as their number
one
team.
The Romo thing it blew up to the point where all those people that were on his side are no longer on his side. And
I'm not off his side. I'm just not defending him like I used to, right? Romo had like a 2-year run where I genuinely thought he was the best color guy in the biz, but CBS apparently had a concern because going into this season, CBS Sports execs apparently actually staged an intervention with Tony Romo about his work.
Didn't work, but okay.
So, in an effort to have Romo, because they effectively felt like Romo, and this happens to a lot of broadcasters, I will acknowledge that it has happened to me in the past. They believe that Romo effectively got to a point where he was comfortable, right? And he basically stopped doing his prep. And that is why the criticism about Romo has predominantly been that he talks too much. He just kind of goes on and on and on about nothing in particular. He really just sounds like he's talking to be talking, right? That's been the big complaint about Tony Romo, is that you got a lot of words and none of them have weight. And that is absolutely something that happens to a broadcaster, whether they are calling a game or doing a show.
What's the job of a color analyst? I've never understood. I mean, is there parameters set? Here's what you're supposed to do. What's a color? A color analyst is, from what I believe, sometimes as an ex-player, it's just someone who's an expert on it who can give you like some inside knowledge of what's going on.
You're
right?
the X's and O's guy.
Yeah.
Right? Rob Brown, the play-by-play guy, turns and hands off the ball to number 23, cuts off guard to the right-hand side, bounces it to the outside. One man to beat, knocked out of bounds. That's going to come up at the 23-yard line. 2 minutes, 32 seconds remaining on the clock. The Tigers are driving, right? And then the X guy, the color guy, the X's and O's guy, he's going to tell you why that play worked or didn't, right? The color guy is going to be the guy that goes, well, keep an eye on the backside left guard. They're actually going to pull him around, and his job is to get to the defensive end, kick the defensive end back. The running back should have jumped in his back pocket and cut up. The reason it didn't work is this linebacker blitzed. He disrupted the pull of the guard. Defensive end was able to step in, knock the guy into the back, whatever. Like, he gives you the X's and O's of what worked and what didn't. Now, in order to do that, you've either got to want to be one of two things: a brilliant football mind who can look at any individual play and see on the first play. You ever been around a dude, Lonzo, that can like listen to a song on a piano and then bang knows how to play that song?
Yeah, I hate those guys.
I hate those people, right? That's the kind of football mind you got to have to be a color guy that comes into it with no prep, right? A play-by-play guy, I will be honest with you, it's easier to be a play-by-play guy. Because while I have to talk more, I really just have to tell you what's happening. I've got to paint that picture for you. Welcome out to Nixon Field, home of your Burns Rebels. It's a beautiful fall night here in the upstate. The sky, those beautiful tones of purples and pink as the sun sets over the campus. And we are, I'm painting that picture for you so in your mind's eye, you can kind of see the field, see what the teams are wearing, see it in your head. When a play happens, my job is to tell you what happens on the play. Running back bounces to the outside, picks up 7 yards. That's going to set us up for a 2nd and 3. The color guy is the guy that's supposed to pop in there and say, that play worked because blank. It didn't work because blank. I want you to look at this player. Here's what this guy did that was special on that play, whatever. The color guy, both guys got to do a lot of prep, right? As a play-by-play guy, so I got to have memorized the numbers on both teams of the playmakers, right? I got to know who the starting wide receivers are. I got to know who the starting cornerbacks are they're up against so that when the quarterback throws a pass down the field and there's a jump ball between 87 and 22, I just know who those guys are. I don't have to go, that's a jump ball between Stephen Jones and Bob McMillan. I just got to know that's Stephen Jones and Bob McMillan, the wide receiver. The color guy has to know that, but he's also got to understand the tactics of both teams, right? If this team has a heavy tendency to blitz on 3rd down, he needs to make sure that he's looking at blitzers so he can call out where the blitz came from. Because I see the blitz when it happens, but he needs to point out why and when and how it happens, right? Well, Romo, it felt very clearly got to the point where he wasn't really doing that prep, I should say, as a color guy. He was really just kind of reacting to the play. That's not your job. That's the play-by-play's job. You're not really adding anything. And he was getting to spots where things would happen. And because he wasn't prepped for it, he basically ended up calling a secondary play-by-play, and it doesn't work. Well, and that's from somebody we know can be a great color guy because he spent about 2 years being an exceptional color commenter, right? Now, CBS sent some execs down to Romo's house in Dallas during the offseason to talk to him about making sure he's got his prep work up. CBS Sports spokeswoman Jen Sabatelli said, to call this an intervention is a complete mischaracterization. We meet regularly with our on-air talent, which is fine. Call it what you want to call it. But according to a report from the New York Post, Romo went to dinner with these execs. They basically said, hey, look, here's the deal. We signed you to a 10-year deal for $180 million. We're giving you $18 million a year, and we're asking you to show up and call effectively 20 to 25 events, right? So we're handing you like $750,000 per football game to show up and call. And keep in mind that the Super Bowl next year is on CBS, which means Nance and Romo would be calling it. They said the get-togethers went well, but the broadcasts have gotten worse since then. And I think we've all kind of noticed it. And I guess this kind of feeds into two things. Number one, Lonzo got Tony Romo in trouble for calling him out. That's a joke. I'm kidding. But he might have. And
you never know.
True. You don't know who's listening to the show. And number two,
we're worldwide.
This is why, ladies and gentlemen, specifically you youngins listening to Uncle Rob here on the show, never stop putting down the grind, my man, right? I would be lying to you to tell you there haven't been some shows that I showed up that I wasn't ready for, and you can tell which ones they are. They're the ones that Rob clicks off the stream without saying goodbye and throws something when he gets to the office. You know it. Lonzo's seen the aftermath. It's angering.
Very few.
Yeah.
Very few. I mean, one hand in the couple years we've been together.
Right, but they happen, right? So this is just interesting to me because I have said for years, and listen, there are a couple of guys, and Romo was one of them. For a while, Romo was one of them. Romo was so damn good because not only did he know the game, but he also studied what he was looking at. Greg Olsen has been that guy this year. I don't know how many Greg Olsen games you've watched on Fox, but Greg has been spectacular.
Well, because Greg is either mid to lower tier as far as games. I've got to see him a lot.
Yeah, fair enough.
He's done a few Panther games.
Greg Olson's great because he knows the teams. And here's why a lot of people, myself included, are kind of concerned, because if Brady truly is retiring, and oh, by the way, I do have a Brady story for you coming up later that may have an impact.
Hopefully we won't
teams.
have time thanks to all the wrestling talk later.
If Brady does indeed take the job on air at Fox, the thought is they want to plug him in the booth, right? They want to have him at games. Well, Fox has got 3 teams. Greg Olson is on the 3rd team right now. I think he should be moving up, but right now he's on the 3rd team, and the guys ahead of them have been there for years. So the thought is Brady comes to Fox, Olson gets knocked off the air. I'm not a Tom Brady hater. I like Tom Brady, but I got no reason to think that Greg Olson gets bumped off just to put Brady in the booth when we've heard nothing yet. But I also felt that way about Romo, and he turned out to be really good for a while till he got bored.
So I think Brady's delivery is going to be snarky, and it's going to be everything that he is. Is he going to be something different than what he is in the booth? I don't think so. So if that's what you want,
see, I don't say this often, Lonzo, but I think you get snarky because you don't like him. I don't find Brady snarky at all.
Okay. So you've actually played some clips recently about of him on his own podcast being snarky.
I played one clip where he got asked for the 9,000th time.
Very
what
snarky.
Are you gonna do?
You could see the expression on his face through his voice without actually seeing
Lonzo,
it.
if that is the argument, there have been moments that you have been snarky.
I was going to say, by the way, obviously I'm a fan of the snark. I'm not being disparaging as far as that goes. What I'm saying is you're acting like you don't know what you're going to get. That's what you're going to get. And I'm a fan of that. Who knows? Maybe he wins me over with his snark. It is possible. Doubtful, but it's possible. I'd hate to see Greg Olson lose his job because of that, though, because I do think Greg Olson is pretty good in the booth.
Greg Olson's phenomenal in the booth. Anyway, apparently CBS Sports had an intervention for Tony Romo about his broadcasting, and Joey B hit me with a text last night. He's like, oh, so I'm not the only one who found Romo unbearable last Sunday. I was like, no, Lonzo's got you too.
I had one of those early on in my career, like the first year. I was told I was talking too much on a show, that there was a host. Not here, by the way. I've only worked at one of the.
Stop interrupting me.
Yeah, I know. So do certain listeners. But I got my revenge on that later on because, Colonel Grudge.
Well,
it took me about 5 or 6 years, but that person who got me in trouble for that, I got him back.
And now you got all the shows. All the shows.
Yeah, all of them.
Texter says Madden was the best color guy ever. I mean, listen, Madden set that standard. Wasn't always great, but he knew the game, right? And John Madden prepped.
But it helped with his dynamic with Pat Summerall. And you got to wonder with Romo, is Nance getting fed up? Because there are stories out there. Nance isn't putting them out there, but there's just stories out there that Romo is out talking the play-by-play guy, and that Nance is too nice to say anything.
So here's the problem. In that New York Post report, they are putting up that there is a chance that Nance is the cause of this because Jim Nance is in business for Jim Nance, and he's happy to be partnered up with somebody who's good as long as he's still the superstar, and we have all broadcasted with that guy. Happy to have a partner as long as I'm the man. And they made the argument that, think about this, whenever Nance does an AFC or NFC championship game, who awards the trophy after the game is over? Jim freaking Nance.
I was going to say, this sounds like radio hierarchy to me.
100%.
That's just how that is.
Listen, right? I will tell you that, and I'm not, this is going to sound like I'm making myself a martyr. I'm not. I have been told by people in some positions in the past, part of the reason that it took me as long as it took me to end up in a place like the Fan Upstate is that I haven't gone into business for myself enough, right? Like, that's broadcasting, that's show business. You got to be willing to step on throats and break necks and stab backs to get where you want to go, and I just don't. Nance is apparently part of the reason that Romo got called into the principal's office this summer.
Yeah, that happens a lot. It really does.
That's the other thing.
You're technically guy number 2.
Yeah.
And if guy number 2 steps on the toes of guy number 1, You end up in the office.
Because guy number one goes, hey, boss, I don't want to start a fight between us. So anyway, it's interesting. All right, let's get away from Tony Romo for a few minutes. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, I promised you a Tom Brady story. I'll do it in the next segment so that it's in one of the short segments just for Lonzo.
I'm going to add minutes to this break.
So, Tom Brady announced his retirement the other day. However, Tom Brady might sign a contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Or he might be asked to and refuse to, which would mean bad things for the great one. It's a weird story. I'll tell you why I don't believe that Tom Brady is retired, and it's not a joke this time. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. This is the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate.
I've always wanted to try turducken, Kevin.
Turducken's incredible.
I figured Rob would have it.
Mm-hmm. Very hard to cook correctly. Delightful when you do.
Our communities are filled with wonderful people who make living here great. At Home Trust Bank, we're proud of that. And that's why we focus on helping homeowners prepare for what's next. Our local mortgage bankers have the experience you need and exceptional personal service you appreciate. Home Trust Bank is ready to help make a house your home. When it's time to buy, visit your local Home Trust branch or go to htb.com/mortgage.
Glad to have you, Philip. James, it depends on which former host you're talking about. One retired and one was wished well with his future endeavors. How do you know Rob hasn't done that on 85 already, Steven?
Thank you, Philip. Very kind of you, buddy. I appreciate it. We're glad to have you, man. Come on by anytime. We love the stream, folks. Y'all are great, man. Yeah, Steven, I'm geeked about the BMW driving experience. It's going to be phenomenal. Cannot wait. Last year, I took one of the hot laps where somebody else drove. There is now again, I don't know what course we'll drive or how it goes or whatever. But there was a drift circle, like you drifted the car through the full circle, and I'm like, I bet I could do it. I played a lot of Need for Speed on Xbox. I bet I can do it.
All right, real quick, James. He was wished well.
Oh,
we were having discussions about former hosts in the building.
Yeah.
Some retire and some are wished well with their future endeavors. By the way, Philip, that's going to be addressed.
Yep, for sure.
As Rob and I look at the floor in shame.
You know what the only problem is? Every person that has like a body transformation like that, you get 100 different diets, might as well be diets and workout plans and regimens and all that. But there's only one key to all of it, which is willpower. You've got to have the willpower. And it is the only thing I don't have. I've got the gym membership. I've got a freezer. Let me tell you how this goes for Rob Brown. Rob didn't eat lunch yesterday. Rob got home. It was late enough after I did all my Zooms and everything, got all my meetings, got all my stuff uploaded, that the lady friend, she gets home from work between 4:30 and 5:30. And usually we start to, like, we'll eat dinner around 7. So I'm like, all right, I got like 3 hours. I'll wait. So it got to be dinner time. She got home. We have been watching recaps of the Alex Murdaugh trial every single night. So we watched through that. And then she looks and she's like, oh, damn, it is 8:30 and we haven't eaten yet. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm really hungry now.
You got to be regimented. I mean, you really do. I did go through a transformation. I know I put weight back on, but I did lose 200 pounds of fat. And you've got to be regimented. You got to understand that you've got to do this. And in your case, you need to eat more, not less.
Yeah,
and
I eat
on time.
1 meal a day, and I know I have to stop that. But it's just like I've developed 15 years of this habit that I can't. Like, it's willpower, right? Because we got done with all that last night. It got to be dinner time, and I'm like, I don't feel like cooking, so we ordered Domino's. And as soon as I got done eating, I'm like, why did I do that? Why? Final segment of the Rob Brown Show for hour number 1. Robin Lonzo with you. So,
trying to figure out how I could hijack the segment, but I nothing comes to mind. I'm nervous about something later. So let's hear Tom Brady.
Fair enough. Let's hear Tom Brady. Tom Brady walked away earlier this week in a video that he posted on social media where he said, I've already done my emotional retirement. So this one's quick, gritty, to the point. I'm out. Peace. Later. Bye. And bounced from the league. Now, when he dropped that video, I had a little fun that afternoon. Like, no, he's not done. He's got this movie he's promoting. He's going to come back at halftime and announce that, hey, you saw how those ladies in that nice movie, 80 for Brady, came to see me play in a game. You're going to get one more crack. I'm back, baby. And he's going to announce what team he's going to, right? I was saying that as a joke, kind of. Like, there's a part of me that hopes he does it because it would be a phenomenal troll. But this is kind of interesting to me. Tom Brady, for the 2023 season, has a salary cap hit of $35.1 million right now. The Bucs are not in a great salary cap position, and they've either got to sign a new quarterback or they have got to start Blaine Gabbert next year. I suspect they don't really want to do that. So the Bucs are in trouble. They got their Super Bowl from Brady. We have seen a couple of teams mortgage the farm to win one, and it sets you back like a number of years. The Saints did it. They kicked the can for a number of years. Now they're screwed, right? Well, Tampa Bay sold the farm to get Brady down there, keep that roster together. They won their Lombardi, and now they're up against it. But here's what's interesting. They sit $55 million over the cap right now. If Tom Brady signs a contract for 2023 for the minimum salary of $1.1165 million, according to Yahoo Sports and Pro Football Talk, then they process his retirement after June 1st, then that cap charge would drop from over $35 million to down under $12 million. Retirement after June 1st would result in $10.77 million in dead money for 2023, and it would push over $24.25 million in dead money to 2024. Now, this is the interesting thing about that. If he's retired and Tampa Bay meant that much to him, signing that contract and retiring June 1st shouldn't matter, right? It's no big deal. He'll get some extra scratch out of it. Not that he needs it. He's fine. But signing a new contract with the Bucs means he can't go anywhere else. He would be locked in as a Buccaneer, or he'd have to retire, or he'd have to sit out a year and come back the year after that if he wanted to go in that direction. if he goes on the reserve retired list, Brady would have to pass through waivers before he could be released from that list, which means that other teams could claim the rights to Tom Brady even if he wasn't going to play, which means that he could not pick where he was going to play next, right? So I'm going to be very interested, and there's not necessarily a deadline, I don't think, except until right out. It was like 3 days after the Super Bowl. But I'm very intrigued to see if Brady does sign a contract with the Bucs. If he does not do that, I kind of suspect that Brady isn't done. That this was he went, I did all the emotional stuff last year, then I came back, turned me into kind of a joke for a little while. But if I want out of Tampa, and I don't want to be the bad guy who just demands a trade, I can just not sign, roll off the team, and get picked up wherever I want, and Tampa's screwed with the money, right? I'm not saying that's what he's going to do. I'm just saying if you don't see in the next week and a half or so, Brady sign a contract, that means there's a little doubt in his head as to whether he's done or not. If he doesn't sign that contract, Brady's keeping his options open, and we might not be done with the guy.
I think this is a reach. I think this is a reach directed at me just to trying to ruin my Friday, and I don't appreciate it.
First off, I would never. Okay, I definitely would, but I am not doing that here. This Scout's honor, being very sincere. I am interested in this because I am not kidding. I was kidding about the 80 for Brady viral marketing conspiracy.
Hey, that got to me. I got to say that one really got to me. So what's the most up and up fine human being move for Brady to make?
I don't know. I mean, if he's not retiring, like if he's kicking the thoughts around in his head.
If he is retiring, what's the move?
Sign the contract with Tampa, let them off the hook. Make you a little extra cheddar, sign the contract, get off the hook.
It's like a severance package for when
well, it's really a hey,
retirement plan.
Thanks for letting me win number 7 in Tampa, right? You're knocking, what is it, 20-something million off the books by signing that contract. If you are truly well retired, the good thing to do for Brady is to sign the contract, let Tampa off the hook for 20 mil. It puts them 30 mil over the cap instead of 55 or whatever it is. That's the right thing to do if he's retired. But the point that I'm making here is if he doesn't do that, it either means that he really doesn't give a damn about Tampa, judge him as you will, or he really hasn't truly decided he's retired, which would be weird. But again, for a guy that very clearly filmed a retirement video well before he released it and then released it out of the blue, I think we've all popped send on a tweet that we regretted sending because it was, you look at it 2-3 days later and go, I don't know why I did that. Is there a chance Brady did that and he's still kicking the wheels about whether to run it back one more time or not and just not do it in Tampa after what happened this year? I think the answer to that is yeah. And if he doesn't sign that contract, I'm looking forward to see what Brady looks like in San Francisco colors. Speaking of quarterbacks, when we come back, I've got sound from 2 of them, Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers. Both very interesting. We'll hit those. WWE Intercontinental Champion Gunther joins us in about 50 minutes. Going to be a busy second hour. Don't go anywhere. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate.
I don't know, Richard. So is it dressing up if you don't wear a t-shirt or a jersey? I guess if your normal dress is t-shirt and a jersey, and then you wear an okay shirt, I guess that's it. We do have a guest, as you mentioned, coming up at the end of the hour.
You know what I might do after going back and watching that interview with LaJoy? is move the cameras so they're going this way, so we're looking at each other instead of just the back of my head for 30 minutes. Like put the laptop here for him, and then spin my camera and like put it on top of this thing so we can kind of look in the same direction. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think visually that would be better. I didn't like the LaJoy thing, the side thing the whole time. It also gives the person, in this case, Gunther, the opportunity to look at the screen and see how he needs to adjust.
I wonder if there's a way to raise this thing up.
What, the laptop?
Yeah, so it's more because he's got the boomer MySpace angle right now. Should we have him use this mic or that one?
That's up to you. I mean, he'd be closer for the chop if you put him on that microphone. I'm just saying. I mean, so it's whatever you want. I would guess maybe Chris has some sort of riser or something, so it doesn't look like it's Yes, these are all things that we could have taken care of, like before the show, but let's face it, that's just not us. Actually, it is us. I blame me. It's my fault. No, Rob ain't getting chopped. But there's always a chance. And no, I'm not going to do that thing where you go, you know what he said? He said that your chops are trash and that he wouldn't even wince. Even though radio is kind of a playground, I'm not doing that. I've had it done to me before. That's how I ended up arm wrestling Storm from American Gladiators, because one of my co-hosts did that to me. That's not what we did. You've seen Rob adjust that sign like 25 times. It's just, it's a thing. Kevin, no, actually I won, but I cheated. So I moved my arm in a way that made it awkward for her because of the lessons learned on Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone. Definitely a how-to video of how to arm wrestle.
Granny lover.
Keep in mind that he's like 4 or 5 inches taller than you.
Yeah. Well, I left a little head room, but I can move it once he sits. We can get it set up. I mean, he's going to have a better backdrop than I. Maybe I should move over there.
Nah, you don't want to do that. You'd be too much like someone else.
Bum bum ba da ba da ba da ba da 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 da. Are you liable for the BMW if you wreck it? Well, I'm not going to find out. But I also know that I don't believe there are walls. I could be wrong. I don't think there's walls around the course to run into. I think it's just grass, so you'd spin into the grass. But I guess we'll find out.
So I think the question,
whenever he comes in, we'll take the break.
Okay.
Unless he's not in by like 9:40. or 41, and then we'll just take the break like normal. Hour numero dos to the Rob Brown Show starts right now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Brown and the Great One Lonzo with you on a beautiful upstate Friday morning. How y'all doing? I am Rob Brown. He is Lonzo. Hope you're having a spectacular Friday. Busy Friday here on the radio broadcast. WWE Intercontinental Champion Gunther will be joining us here in about 45 minutes from right now. If you'd like to join us on the stream, he will be on the stream with us. He will be in studio. We have already got his streaming station set up. So Gunther will join us live on the stream. You can watch at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, or by searching and subscribing to the Rob Brown Show on either YouTube or on Twitch, your choice. We have got Gunther coming up in about 45 minutes. Then after that, he will be joining us until about 11:15. We'll cut him loose. He'll get on the road to WWE SmackDown live tonight at the One Score Wellness Arena. Last I checked, there are a few tickets remaining to the show. Not many. It will be sold out by tonight. And they have also announced that WWE champion, both Universal and Heavyweight, Roman Reigns will be in attendance this evening. He was announced yesterday.
Don't forget, there's another champion that's going to be there
Gunther.
aside from Gunther, and that would be Charlotte Flair, putting her title on the line
Yep.
against Sonya Deville tonight.
Looking forward to that. So we will talk in the last segment a little bit about the show tonight. We will talk with Gunther coming up in about 45 minutes. Before we get there, though, y'all know I like to get weird on Fridays, right? Like Fridays are just for fun. Lonzo, I'm going to run here to clip 2, if you don't mind. If you have been on the interwebs for any length of time, you are going to recognize the sound that we are about to play. This sound is from professional bowling great Pete Weber. Now, you may not recognize the name Pete Weber, but if you are a fan of the interwebs, you will recognize this celebration. Pete Weber won a bowling major championship a couple of years back. And Pete Weber dropped one of the most awkward but greatest moments of victory in the history of professional bowling. It is a victory celebration that has been emulated by many, recreated by few over the years. It is something that to this day, I will still drop when I put an X up on the board at the alley. Pete Weber had this celebration after knocking down a strike to win a major open in the world of pro bowling. Another strike. I did it. Who do you think you are? I am. Who do you think you are? I am. Which was weird because it was just an awkward celebration, right? It was just an awkward celebration for Pete Weber that never really made sense. Well, he joined the Barstool podcast, Pardon My Take. Now, they asked him about this. I triple checked it. It's clean. In fact, the only cuss word that he dropped in this, because after the celebration where he knocked a GD down that I bleeped out, I'm like, let me triple check this. Okay. And I did. And the only thing he said was at one point he said, I'm pedo. And I took that out because Monday. So anyway, they asked him about that celebration. One of the most notorious celebrations in sports history. Who do you think you are? I am. and he told the story of why he said that and who he said it to. And I found out that Pete Weber might be my favorite athlete of all time. Pete Weber said a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid was bleeping with me in my house, so I let him have it. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that if there's a kid, I feel like at 13, 14, you're kind of in that zone, right? Like, you're not a child. If he's like, yeah, there's a 4-year-old kid, I'd be like, all right, Pete, like, rein it in a little bit. But sports are fun. They're supposed to be fun. Even when you're boat talking each other, sports are supposed to be fun. So there's a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid. He said, I left a 10 pin that I needed. And he went, yes, loud enough for me to hear it, giving me the goods while I'm bowling. So I knocked down the X to win that round. I took that moment and I wanted to say, who the bleep do you think you are? I am the best. And instead it just stumbled out. Who do you think you are? I am.
Doesn't it sound like a Michael Jordan thing? Finding an enemy and using that as motivation.
Oh, yeah. That dude. So, you know, I've thrown darts. I played pool. I'm terrible at both of them. I bowl. I am average at best. But there is the old secret trick, right? You need a bullseye. What do? You take your ex's face in your mind and you put it right there on the top, or you take your coworker you can't stand it when you put his face on the border. You take that guy who tripped you at the airport that one time and didn't apologize, and you mentally put his face on the head pin or on the bullseye or on that 8-ball you got to knock down or whatever. And it gives you that little more extra focus to make sure you get a good connection there. This dude said there was a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid in the crowd heckling me. And when I knocked down the X to win that tournament, I decided to give him hell. I'm all in for it. Pete Weber has just jumped to the top of my favorite athletes list. Kevin said, be honest, is bowling a sport? It's a competition.
There are balls. There are collision. It's a sport.
I'm fine calling bowling a sport, right? It requires some level of talent, physical ability, coordination, agility, timing.
If bowling is not a sport, then golf is not a sport. There are a lot of things that you can, if you say this is not, well, then you've got to remove some other things.
I will tell you in all honesty, golf is harder than bowling, but I consider them both sports, right? Now, the conversation is not is bowling a sport. The combination here is my guy in a heated moment found his inspiration in, let me shut down this 13-year-old heckler. Let me make sure he knows. Do you know who you're talking to? Who do you think you are? I am. And the best part was that's not even what he wanted to say to the kid. He was just so ramped up to make sure that that 13-year-old knew exactly who the hell he was, that he couldn't even get the smack talk out.
I'm glad that you and I have never experienced on the air thinking you're saying something and saying something totally different.
Not at all. Never
We have
happens.
never had that problem.
That kind of boat would never happen on this show.
Never.
Not at all. That's why I'm not mad about it. There have been moments where in the heat of competition, you go to drop a line on the dude giving you grief, and it just blah, 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 on the way out. Happens to everybody. Happened to Jordan. Happens to Braun. Happens to everybody. Nobody gets it right 100% of the time. But to me, it's the thought that counts. If your 13-year-old is ripping on me when I am playing a game, I'm going to run junk at your 13-year-old. There have been games where I've played with the nephew, Lou, my dude, my guy, my favorite person on planet Earth. And I go in with I do this to the lady friend too. I go in with every intention of letting that person win. This happens with the lady friend all the time. It's happened with Lou.
Wait. You don't let someone win. I don't care if you're 2 years old or 97. You don't let someone win. The whole point of competition is to defeat the opponent.
Right, but there's a difference in the level of competition versus recreation. Me playing Go Fish with my little nephew, that's not a competition. He's 6.
Hey, I lost at Candyland a couple weeks ago to my
Is
granddaughter.
he still eating at you?
I was not happy about it. It took her a while to grasp the fact that she won. And but like a couple hours later, my wife told me, she said, I beat Papa.
Oh, she's going to let you hear that for a minute.
Good. That means she understands she beat me.
Look,
and that's what competition is for.
Here's the direction I'm driving at. Right?
I mean, I won a good game and, and sportsmanship and all that, but I want to win.
But here's the direction I'm driving at. I don't disagree. Like if I go play putt-putt with the nephew, I'll go in with every intention of letting in because, yes, I want him.
And he'll bring his own putter, which
yes,
is just not.
No, if I'm playing somebody like Lonzo, yeah, I'm bringing my own putter because I ain't coming for anything less than blood, son.
Dude, if you're playing Lou, you're bringing your own putter. You cannot go to a putt-putt course and not bring your own putter. True. It's not within you.
But I will still miss a couple easy ones, miss a couple layups to let Lou win so he gets a little confidence until he goes, I'm better at this than you, Uncle Rob. Chow. You better learn. The lady friend gets this smoke all the time because I got no problem letting her win at something. But she is incapable of humbly accepting the W. So if we go and play putt-putt or go bowling or play the par 3 course, the threes downtown or whatever, and we're having that conversation, and she's like, hey, babe, check out the scorecard. It's like, okay, let's check out the scorecard.
I'm sure there's a little something more behind that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
because she brings the heat. She don't care.
Yes.
And she will never accept that sometimes I try to let her win. But she will also beat me and stuff. I'm not gonna not.
All right.
That.
So you're giving off an air of surprise. She will also beat me at stuff.
Are you not surprised when someone beats you at something?
No.
Yes.
No, I'm not because I'm older.
I get surprised to lose anything. All right. I think I am aces at everything.
There's a certain arrogance behind being surprised you lost.
100%.
Yeah, there absolutely 100%.
Is. But arrogance is where competition breeds arrogance, right? You think Mike ever attacked the game and didn't attack the game with the feeling of I'm the best in the world, right? Now,
I mean, admittedly, there are certain video games that I don't play anymore because my son got so good at them that I could. These are fighting games that I just got my butt whipped.
Yeah.
And then he went to college and did the same thing to everyone there. So it wasn't like it was just me, which made me feel better that his peers he was doing the same to.
Yeah. The thing is,
there's pride and there's also hurt because you realize that your child has surpassed you at something, but then there's he's that good.
Yeah. The lady friend and I played the threes course like a year and a half ago on a date night, right? She was kind of getting into golf with me a little bit. We went and played. And the natural enemy of Rob Brown is a par 3. You put me on the tee box on a 4 or 5, I'm like, man, I know exactly what I'm playing. You put me on a tee box at a par 3 and I freak out. It's in my head. I can't help it. So I thought this would be good practice, right? I'm going to go out there. And instead of playing the way I would normally play, instead of playing safe par 3s, which is always my goal, I'm aiming for the biggest part of the green, even if it means I got a 30-footer. I'd rather get it on the green and roll up a 30-foot layup and then tap in for a par. And we went out and she beat me on like the first 2 holes, right? She's not a bad golfer. She beat me on like the first 2 holes. And by hole 3, we're walking up to 3 and she goes, it's 6-5 and I'm winning. I'm like, oh. Okay. So now Rob Brown's got to attack the holes. Now Rob Brown's got to go get a couple of birdies. Because I had no problem. I'm like, if she wins, she wins. I'm out here for practice. And then it turned into right? So I got no problem with Pete Weber, professional bowler, turning around and giving a 13-year-old kid hell and telling him, who do you think you are? I am. An incredible moment. And now to find out it was directed at a preteen. Go ahead, big dog. Let's get him. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's run to a break. We'll come back here in just a minute from right now. I got a few more things I want to get into. Little Panther talk coming up. Scott Fitterer said a couple of days ago that in an ideal world, the Panthers are drafting and developing their quarterback this year. And he added on to that this week. I'm going to address that, give some thought behind it, and then coming up in the final segment of this hour and the first of the next WWE Intercontinental Champion, Gunther, will be joining us here on the show. Friday Night SmackDown tonight at the Well. Tickets are still available if you want to pick one up. Lonzo and I will be there. Give him a hug. He loves it. Hug life.
Stop it.
Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Be right back, stream. Don't go anywhere. is your current reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Intercontinental Champion and Royal Rumble Iron Man. The legendary Gunther is in the studio with us. How you doing, young man?
Doing very good. Thank you for having me. How are you guys doing?
We're good. It's Friday Night SmackDown. It's here in town. We're both wrestling guys. Get to go to a live show and talk to a man who just put on the performance of a lifetime. Congrats on that, by the way.
Oh, thank you. That definitely was. I could really feel that might be a career-changing night. So, yeah, went for it and was, yeah.
I love it. Let's
real quick. Rob's fine. I'm nervous, man, because
he's not going to hit you. Well, I don't think he's going to hit you.
Still, I mean, I'm imagining, and I just want to do this. I'm gonna. If you're watching on the stream, I just want to cover my chest area and make sure that it doesn't end up stinging really bad eventually.
So I did have this. So obviously, and it's going to be a focus, I'm sure, for most people you talk to, but you have been renowned throughout your career for putting the chop on people. How bad does your hand hurt? Because it's loud, man.
To be fair, usually not, but after the Rumble, really,
you handed out a few.
I felt my limbs hurting for a few days, I gotta say. Yeah. I gotta be honest.
Let's talk a little bit about your career. Obviously, wrestling up through the ranks in Europe. We saw the expansion when NXT added the European Championship, and we really have seen over the past 10 years, and I credit you and Ilya and a couple of other guys for kind of taking European wrestling and getting it not on the map in North America, but really ingratiating it into kind of the main event scene. What has it been like for you to wrestle in Europe, have that European style, and then see it begin to become successful and continue to grow here in the States?
Yeah, it's been a crazy journey. If you look back at it, obviously, because I'm 35 now. I started wrestling when I was 17, I think. So I wrestled half my life, basically. And it's really just been the last 6 years where it all came together when I started out coming around more in the indies and being able making a living of it and stuff like that. Because it's a little bit more complicated when you come out of Europe. Like, not anymore, because like you mentioned, the business changed. But when I started, yeah, it was unrealistic to ever be in that situation I am right now. It was like just making a living of wrestling was something that was so incredibly unrealistic. So to achieve that goal a few years ago, that was already something crazy. And yeah, then you touched on that NXT UK. That was when WWE really opened up to the European market, and I've been in touch with them for a while, and then just went with it and see where it goes, and ended up here.
So when NXT UK started, by the way, the longest reigning NXT UK champion. Yes. So they not only decided to make that move, but trust you, as well as some other guys, Pete Dunne, Ilya, etc. But they really kind of trusted you to be the face of that brand, to grow it and get the attention here in the States. What did that mean to you? Did that kind of feel like this is kind of becoming real for me?
Oh, yeah, of course. And that's a very privileged situation, though, because at the end, I'm very proud of my wrestling heritage, if that makes sense. And the European wrestling, because of history and stuff, was always very important to me. So to be in that position, be the representative of European wrestling with the most eyes on, I would say, the European wrestler with the most eyes on, it was a great opportunity. And I think especially through COVID, because there was a big throw. We had with NXT UK, we had the events in an empty studio, basically, and stuff like that. But I think I kind of benefited from that. I have a very physical style, and I think with no audience, a lot of that came across way more than it would be with fans in the arena.
So as a fan of wrestling, in different countries, there's different styles. If you look at Japan's wrestling style compared to American style, what's the difference between the European style of wrestling and the American style of wrestling, and how much of an adjustment did it take to start using this style, or did you just use your own style and incorporate other things?
Yeah, I think I'm basically still myself. Like, I never really changed to wrestle in America. I think that's one of the things that make me unique, is that I don't wrestle like any other person. And the styles are different, because when I first got in touch with wrestling, it was my parents took me to the tournament in Vienna. We had like 30, 40 days. Every day there was a tournament in the same place, and it was completely sports-based, presentation-wise. It was all focused on the competition and stuff. So our style was different. It was way more technical and physical, I would say. And while in the US, it was always more about the entertainment aspect, colorful, big show and stuff like that. And I think, yeah, I think in the last years, all of that came a little bit more together again, where it is about the entertainment and stuff like that, but it's about that real solid craftsmanship underneath it that what makes it really exciting at the end.
And obviously, coming from that European background, we have seen the diversity in professional wrestling, WWE, AEW opening up with New Japan, etc. And it's, to me, the interesting thing about the diversity is it's not just about getting people from different backgrounds and countries and races and creeds, but mixing those styles together too. So you've got guys like Shinsuke Nakamura who kind of brought that Japan strong style. We've got guys like you bringing that very physical European style, and then you mix it up with, like you mentioned, the kind of John Cena's of colorful showmanship of the American style. Do you think that that is what's helped keep WWE not just relevant, but really at the top of the pecking order through all these changes like COVID, etc.?
I mean, of course, like WWE always had the best wrestlers in the world, always wrestled in the WWE ring. If you look back, you can even when you look back, go back like Eddie Guerrero, for example, he was everywhere, or Chris Jericho. They were everywhere before they finally came to WWE and were in the big stage and stuff like that. So the best wrestlers always ended up here. And that's what it should be. That's what your goal should be at the end of the day. To be in the ring on the highest level with the best wrestlers that you can compete against.
All right. So before you came to WWE, I had a couple buddies in the building who were big time into all the other aspects of wrestling. And they're like, you've got to see this video. So there are compilation videos out there. They're still out there. I'm sure they are, of nothing but your chops. And so that was my first introduction to that. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Have you ever made anyone cry?
Maybe on the inside, yeah. But you can see people are animals, right? They just want to see violence these days. It would make me famous, I guess.
It's so that and we'll kind of circle back to where you are now as the ring general, kind of the de facto leader of Imperium, which, by the way, is an incredible faction to me. Like the presentation and the style that you guys bring, but it all kind of centered on this character that you have created and developed and nurtured within WWE. How did you end up going through all the different iterations of your characters to land on the ring general that you're portraying now in WWE?
Oh, I didn't really have characters before. It was just me.
Sure.
I was just a big guy in wrestling in Germany called Big Daddy Walter.
Yes.
And it was actually Ludwig's father was a very successful wrestler in Germany and Austria. So my parents, they would watch him when he wrestled at the tournaments, and he was always he was old school. He passed away a few years ago, but he was already, when he would still come to the shows when we wrestled, and I think he was already in 70s and stuff like that. So he's from a complete different generation, where it was all about sports presentation and stuff like that. And we identified with that. Of course, Ludwig does, he's second generation wrestler. I always liked that style. And then when we wrestled in Germany with WXW, we had Timothy Thatcher come in. And he already had the music that we use now. He already did the pose that we do now. And we were like, yeah, that's what we want to do as well. Because we, like Ludwig and I, we both didn't have like character identity down, that it was like natural to us. And that's what we want to do. It would really fit us. And then we just talked. I was like, hey, you want to do that? That whole idea, ring general, like ring general is a wrestling term, like the guy who is in control in the ring. I took that, and then we had the second generation part with Ludwig, the charismatic guy. We had the rough guy with Timothy Thatcher, and then that was the group. And since then, Tim is not with us anymore. We have Giovanni now, but the identity of the group is basically still the same. So that didn't really have to change for WWE. They just took it how it was and ran with it.
One of the things that I've enjoyed, we talked about diversity a second ago, and obviously as somebody who grew up watching wrestling in the late 80s and 90s here in the States, there was always this thing where if we had a wrestler come in internationally, he was always by default the bad guy, and it was always, to some degree, almost kind of cartoonish in the presentation. But obviously in the last decade or so, that's kind of changed, right? Like the story is no longer, this guy's from somewhere else, he's the bad guy. It doesn't mean you can't be a heel. Doesn't mean he can't be a bad guy, but you're not presented as he's the bad guy because he's from somewhere else. Those types of things, I think, have taken guys like Shinsuke and given them the chance to elevate to stardom. I think that the same has happened for you, and we're watching that star rise because of it. What does it mean to kind of be able to continue to pull from your roots as an Austrian wrestler, as a European wrestler, but be here in the States and not just be portrayed as, well, he's from somewhere else, so he's the bad guy, but to be able to give a version of yourself, heel or face, that kind of plays off of that?
Yeah, I mean, times have changed too. And it's like, if you look, I totally get the concept of like the bad foreigner comes in who wants to get the title from our. I mean, if that would be any other sports and whatever, the American national basketball team plays against Croatia, then you
want to win.
You will be Croatians, right? Because they come to gain the title. And because wrestling was sports based on in its roots, I guess that's where that concept came from. But then when it became more entertainment, then it became more colorful and over the top. And I'm glad we got away from that again, because like you said, it always depends on the situation. I think if I ever get to wrestle Cody Rhodes again, I think the roles there are clear. I am that bad guy from somewhere else, and I want to beat that very popular American guy up, and I think that's totally fine. But like you said, just because somebody's from somewhere shouldn't be portrayed a certain way. But also, I think as long as if you're good at what you do, even though sometimes you get put in a position where your character doesn't fit that, the audience will create a certain respect for you, if you like, and will appreciate that. And then it's going to naturally develop, but it's supposed to be over time.
So Rob and I have been fans all our lives. I'm actually 54, so I'm a grandpa. When I started being a wrestling fan, it was with my papa. He was bedridden, and he was a lot older than me. The only way we connected was on Saturday nights watching wrestling. And one thing that you have said a bunch of times, and there are fans that our fans that are watching or listening now who are not wrestling fans. What makes the ring sacred?
What makes sacred is we take it very serious. Like I talk about us in the sense of like Imperium, our group, and we take our professional craftsmanship very serious. We're proud about that. Like when somebody asks me, what do you do for professionals? Like, I'm a professional wrestler. I'm a wrestler. I'm proud about that. So, and there are people in this sport where, like everywhere else, that do wrestling because they want to take advantage of that. They want to gain the biggest upside for them out of it. And we believe we're in this because we want to contribute to the history of this sport and of this business, and not first and foremost for our own benefit. And that's why we say to us, the ring is sacred, that like the mat is sacred, because that's our holy ground. That's where because of that sport, we are in a very fortunate position in our life. And we just want to show our respect to them.
Glad you talked about that. Current WWE reigning, defending, undisputed Intercontinental Champion Gunther is in the studio with us. We've got to run to a quick break. When we come back here in just a minute, I want to talk to you about what it means to carry that title, because I have said for years, like everybody's always talks about the World Heavyweight Championship, the Universal Championship, but to me, the history of wrestling is really made with the Intercontinental Champion. And I want to ask kind of what it means for you to be able to hold that title over your shoulder when you walk to the ring. We'll take a real quick break. We'll come back. We'll continue that discussion on the flip side. Rob Alonso and you, the Rob Brown Show's on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. Hey, you're good at this. You should try being in broadcasting, man.
Oh, thank you. Later on.
Yeah, there you go. You got some things to do left still, huh? Have you ever considered like doing a podcast or anything?
I was thinking about it with a friend or something like that, maybe do a podcast or something. But then I was also thinking like right now it's maybe not the best time for me. I don't know. Just give it a few years and then you have more to talk about and stuff like that.
Yeah, develop some more stories to.
And I think if they spill the tea all the time, it gets boring. You know what I mean? So just gotta wait for the right time,
there you go.
Right period, and then you spill the tea for a bit and then you stop it again. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like Lonzo and I have talked about this in the past about how it feels like everybody has a podcast now.
Yeah.
And to the point that we've talked about our wrestling podcast, Jericho's has taken off and become huge. You've got guys like Sap who have done it for years, kind of behind the scenes. And then every now and then I'll stumble across somebody who's been in the business like a year or two, and they go to pod, and it's really just it's talking about wrestling, which is great. I'm always in, but I'm like, there's so many other ones out there. So I think that's a great approach.
That's like the thing, because Jericho did it at the right time. He'd been everywhere, and obviously AEW, that's his last thing he does, kind of like, you know what I mean, where he contributes himself. But he can talk about whatever he experienced so far. So that's cool. Or if you're somebody who invites people the whole time and they talk about them, it keeps it fresh as well.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think I would do something where I talk about my experiences and stuff like that. And then I think that's like is a limited time window. And then I think it's like always weird too. And it's like some of the older guys, then their podcast just becomes into commenting on what just happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like that wouldn't be something I would want to do.
Sure. Do you guys have a hard out to get somewhere?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Probably do like another.
Can we take it to like the top of the hour?
Yeah. That's
Okay,
fine.
perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect. Because we got one more segment left, right?
Yes. You gonna ask or
Yes. At the top of the hour. Do you have 3 minutes where we could ask him to cut
Well,
like
you-
a liner or two?
you do it in
for
the
us?
next break? Yeah.
Awesome. Do
Yeah.
it. So we'll get you out for the regular break, and then we've got our production studio right there. It should be good to go.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, we'll have you cut us a liner or two just to help us be popular.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless you need somebody to like valet you out to the ring tonight, in which case I am available, but I suspect this is probably more likely.
Also during the break, someone needs to take them down. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got okay.
So we're still streaming. So stream question: how many guys in a position like mine have asked you to chop them? How many have you done, and how many of them passed out?
Yeah, a lot, and I've never done it.
You've never done it?
And we'll never do it. You're not a trained professional.
Yeah, no, I'm aware.
Can't do
They
it.
have been trying to get me to do it for 2
No, I
days.
can't do that.
And I was like, no, I don't. I would like to. I turned 39 in 2 weeks. I'd like to make it.
Yeah,
You know what I
right?
mean?
Not worth it.
Well, it says a lot about him that people want to see him get chopped. I'm just
Correct.
saying there's
It's
that.
only
Yeah.
my entire audience, including my mom, by the way, who's like, I
Oh,
think
there
it'd
you
be
go.
funny. No, I don't. I don't. So how many more of these do you have to do? Like it starts at 6 and you just go till 2, or
This is the
Yeah, so
last
this is
one.
our
Oh, there's the last one?
So we'll wrap and then get back to the hotel for
Cool. A
a
nap?
and then- Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Look, I literally have people on the stream offering money
Yes.
for it. That's how much they want to see me have pain inflicted.
No physicality.
No.
please.
Correct.
Sorry.
No. Don't apologize.
So I figured there was some legality involved and all that kind of stuff.
I'm over here putting the hammer down in the corner.
I put the hammer down on that before you walked in the room.
I just
but
wanna-
I do appreciate
yeah,
you
yeah.
having my back.
I was willing to contribute to the money to see him get chopped, but you know. All right, we've got about a minute left.
Perfect. Where is what's your favorite city in the States you've gotten to wrestle in front of? Like which crowd really like got you pumped about a show?
Crowds, yeah, it's usually the big cities that
Yeah.
like Chicago is usually very good. New York,
Yeah.
is usually really good. But then I would say like down here is really good too.
Yeah.
It's like because of big wrestling history as well here and stuff, right? So yeah, but to be fair, usually for TVs, the crowds are good though. But you can tell like in like Chicago or New York, where there's like or the East Coast in general, there's like a hardcore wrestling
Yeah.
fan base. It's a little bit like there's a little step up still.
Are there any cities you've experienced that prefer the heels? Like they're just
That
always
prefer-
pulling for a bad guy.
No, I think it's case by case.
Case by
but-
case, yeah.
Yeah. But Philly, it might be.
There we go.
0%
Because that's what I was thinking
Philly
of.
could be
Yes.
one of those two.
So I'm
yeah.
gonna get in trouble. I can't stand Philadelphia sports fans. They are the worst. I love them as wrestling fans because they are
All right, here we
always a
go.
hot crowd.
Here we go.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Robin Lonzo with you, and joined in studio by your reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Intercontinental Champion. Gunther sits with us here on the show till the top of the hour. We left talking a little bit. You mentioned wrestling's history, et cetera, et cetera. I, as a fan, make the argument that I think that the belt that you are carrying right now is the most important belt in wrestling. Historicity wise, right? You were talking about legends that have carried that belt, some of them that this is the belt that kind of propelled them to that next level. A ton of guys were holding this belt when they became champ, and we have seen it happen to names for many, many years. What does it mean to you knowing the legacy of that belt and the names like Guerrero and Jericho and Triple H that have carried it, and some of them launched into stardom? What does it mean for you to be the Intercontinental Champion, especially when we finally seen it kind of go back to its roots of it's an Intercontinental Champion with wrestlers representing the world being able to hold the title?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big accomplishment for me, of course. Like you said, the title has a huge history. And now to be in the situation that I can, do my own part and add to its history, its legacy, that's fantastic for me. That fulfills me doing that. I'm also always a believer that the title doesn't, I don't know how that saying is true, but how that saying goes down.
The title doesn't make the man makes the title.
Yes, exactly. That's what it is. And I believe in that because at the end of the day, you can win that, but what you do with it, that's the real question. I think you can have that glorious night and win a title, but then the hard work starts.
Sure.
I feel like, because then everybody's after you, and then everybody expects a lot more, and you have to deliver it every time. You have to top it every time, and that process is, it's a challenge, but it's very rewarding, to say that. So it's a big honor, but also I'll just enjoy the ride.
All right, Royal Rumble started out at number 1, made it all the way to the end. There was this thing, like in the middle of the Rumble, there was like the seas parted, and there was you on one side, Gunther, and there was Brock Lesnar on the other side. This is something we talked about this on the air already. This is something we didn't know we wanted, but we definitely want this, and it looks like you did too. What was that like?
Yeah, of course I wanted to. I mean, Brock is a like 1 in a million guy, or 1 in a 10 million, or something like that. I always liked those guys that just stood out from the pack. And when I stopped watching wrestling for a while when I was a teenager, and then when I got back into it again, when I started training, that was the time when Brock was young, but he was wrestling Eddie and Big Show and Kurt Angle and stuff, and the guy was fantastic. Beast. I always loved his matches and was always very impressed with that. And also with the recent years in WWE, I always thought that would be, I think, for a wrestler, my style and stuff, that's my end boss, if that makes sense. I get portrayed as the end boss in wrestling for a lot of guys, but I think Brock could be my end boss. And I really hope that match goes down at some point.
I mean, I was going to ask you, what is your dream match? Is Brock Lesnar on that list?
Oh yeah, of course. But then, to be fair, like, that's always hard to. There's so many exciting matches out there that would be cool for individually. But yeah, just to nail it down, it's like, what's my benchmark? That's
Is it so because of your style, and especially now with the WWE being as wide open it is with different styles, what's it like for you when you catch somebody that has a completely different style with it? If somebody like Ricochet that bounces all over the ring and loves to get up in the air and be kind of versatile, what is it like for you guys to put a match together where you've got 2 very different styles and you have to work together to put on a show and tell that story?
Oh, I like that, to be honest. Usually that my favorite opponents are the ones that are like smaller than me. So I like that. I think the classic story of the David and Goliath, or the underdog, is it's one of the best wrestling stories too. So I would say I would always prefer like wrestle somebody with a different style, because that's what makes it interesting.
Let's talk about this, and this is a little bit more personal, I'm sure, but we have watched you not just as a wrestler transform into this incredible character, but you have gone through a remarkable body progression over the years to get in the shape that you're in today. What has that process been like? I mean, is it just diet and exercise? I got told, I believe you've gone full vegan the other day. You're in the gym, I assume 24 to 26 hours a day at this point. What has that been like to transform your body into the character you are today and how you're portrayed?
I'm not vegan. I used to be vegan
Okay.
years ago for a while. Well, to be fair, the only change was the nutrition. Like, I always liked the look of the chunky heavyweights that looked like butchers. always like that, and I always worked out a lot. But when I knew I would come to the main roster and stuff, I thought it's time to, bring the best version of myself in front of the biggest audience I can be. And yeah, that was it actually. So I really focused on that during like the time before I came to the main roster, and yeah, that's basically it.
It looks like you weren't the only one. I mean, there's somebody else in Imperium. Looks like they did the same thing.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, those guys, Gio and Kaiser, they kicked my ass in the gym, and we worked out together. And they were doing, because they themselves had a crazy transformation. They always were leaner than I am, but they were not by far as ripped as they are now. So a few months before I started, they started doing that, and that inspired me, of course, too. So I was like, okay, guys, come on, we do it together.
So you're in this group Imperium with these guys, and you know, one thing that I think WWE over the last couple of years is they've kind of been willing to lift the curtain a little bit and let us into the lives of you guys as wrestlers, not just in the ring but out of it. I had a couple people that asked when we announced this interview if you would give what life is like between two shows, right? Like when you're on the road, you guys have house shows that you've got to do, so there's a lot of traveling, etc. But is it traveling with these guys, just kind of having fun, living your lives, hitting the gym when you can, kind of stuff? Like what's in a nut and bolts version, what's life on the road for you and the guys that you're wrestling with?
I mean, I can only speak for myself and Gio and Kaiser because we travel together. That's great as well to have my two best friends basically with me the whole time, and we can do this all together, because alone it would be way more annoying and stressful, I would say. Yeah, I think people always have that expectation of like there's a little rock and roll lifestyle going on or something like that, but yeah, I'm sorry, it's not as exciting. We come in and we have our Yeti cooler, and we have our food prepared for the weekend, and we hit the gym every day. We travel where we need to travel to. We get our cardio in, we wrestle, we eat right, and then usually when it's time that we get back to the hotel, we're like, okay, we gotta sleep now because we gotta recover as well. So it's really not, it's just here and there, to be honest. When there's like last week after the Rumble was like we go out and we enjoy a little bit, have a few drinks or something.
I meet Gunther in the bar. What are we drinking?
Usually white wine with sparkling water or whiskey.
The spritzer, or you could not have two more opposite drinks, man. You're all over the map. I love it.
I'm from Vienna. Vienna is a wine city.
Sure.
So like the spritzer is something that is served at every little pub or something like that for €1.50. That's a very common drink, so that's where it's from. And yeah, I like whiskey. That's
my guy.
nice.
I knew I liked this guy. WWE Intercontinental Champion Gunther here in the studio with us for just a few more minutes. Let me ask you about when you get a show like tonight. You're here in Greenville. This is a place that has a huge wrestling history. The Carolinas really as a whole do. We've had the Hardy Brothers on in the past. They're from the Carolinas. Paul White, Big Show over in AW. He's from here. I have enjoyed, of all the places I've seen wrestling shows, I've enjoyed them in the Carolinas because the crowd has, like Lonzo pointed, I mean, all of us, most of us, got our love of wrestling from our dad. I remember watching Ric Flair in his prime with my dad when I grew up. He watched it with his dad in the Bruno Sammartino days, etc. When you get in front of a crowd, especially like in Greenville, that comes from a wrestling hotbed that you know has fans for generations, can you kind of feel that when you're about to come out from Gorilla and make your walk to the ring? Like, is there something extra, or do you really, I mean, like, is every night the intensity that you want to bring?
Yeah, the thing is, like, of course, there's like, when you go certain areas, there's like, sometimes there's a romantic feeling as a wrestler about it a little bit when it has a long history and stuff like that. But to be fair, that's something that the standard we need to hold up to for ourselves is wherever we wrestle, we got to bring the same effort, the same intensity, the same energy and stuff like that. You just feel when you go to a certain area where their wrestling is a big history, you just feel that the audience is a little bit more smartened up to what we do, or you can go into a little bit more detail with your matches and stuff like that because they're going to pick it up.
WWE Intercontinental Champion Gunther in the studio with us. Friday Night SmackDown is tonight at the Well, Bon Secours Wellness Arena, downtown Greenville. He will be there. Imperium will be there tonight. Got a tag match against Ricochet and Strowman.
Very important match.
Because it's an elimination match, effectively, a qualifier.
It's the final.
Yeah.
It's the final of the tag team tournament. So the winner of that has a good chance to challenge for the tag team championships. Who are with the Usos. So
what's the mindset for the boys, considering we talked about mixing those styles? You've got the man amongst monsters in Braun Strowman. You got Ricochet, who loves to be all over the ring. What's the mentality of Imperium getting set for that match tonight?
yeah, it's a complicated one, right? You just mentioned that. Two different opposites. Usually teams are somehow equal. Yeah, I have full trust in the guys. They're both phenomenal wrestlers, like fantastic athletes. They wrestle with their heart when they're out there. And yeah, they will find a way. Like, to be honest, we haven't discussed it so far, and I try not to interfere in their match strategies too much because they got to do their thing as well as much as I do. But I will definitely be there to support them.
What do you? We always see valets, managers, other superstars yelling in the ring. What are you yelling when these guys are having their competition? Like, what are you telling them? Is it tactical strategy? Is it get this done, or we're gonna have a talk afterwards? As kind of the de facto leader of the group, what are you yelling at these guys in a heated match?
In the heated match, I would give them, like, I would make them pay attention to things that they don't do in that moment because they're busy with something else. Or I would shout encouragement. I never yell at them. I yell for them.
Yes. Gunther, motivational speaker. I'm here for it. Thank you for coming in, man. It's an absolute pleasure. Very much looking forward to see you, not just tonight, but for the rest of your career, man. I think you absolutely rose that star in that Royal Rumble match, and I'm sure there is a lot more to come. So congratulations on that, and thanks for coming by.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Of course, that is your reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Intercontinental Champion Gunther. He will be alongside his group Imperium live tonight for WWE SmackDown at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena. There are a few tickets still left, and not only will Gunther be there, but Lonzo will be there too. So, like, just rising stars all over the place. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back for the third, final, and best hour of the Rob Brown Show. After this, you are listening to the Fan Upstate. Excellent. Thank you, man. top of the power rankings. Trey said, Gunther just became my favorite dude in the WWE. Yeah. I suspect you are not alone amongst the Rob Brown Armada that just elevated Gunther in your favorite WWE or wrestling superstar power rankings. You know what I loved about that interview? And I told you this back when we started the show. When you get a guy like Gunther, well, really any wrestler, as fans, you never know if they're going to attack the interview in kayfabe or as the actor portraying the character, right? You don't know. With television guys, you never had the problem. With movie stars, you never had the problem. They're Tom Cruise, the movie star, not Maverick, right? With wrestlers, there's a bunch of them that have because wrestling, it used to be with wrestling that kayfabe was life, right? Like everything's in kayfabe. In fact, I met when I was a youngin', Hulk Hogan in the Pensacola airport. Very briefly, walking by, Hulk Hogan was Hulk Hogan, not Terry, right? Not Terry Bollea. He was Hulk Hogan. And if you said something to Hulkster in the airport, it was, yeah, brother. Like he lived in kayfabe, and that's the way it used to be. And now kind of those lines with social media and the internet and all that, those lines are blurred. But there are still some guys that hold on to that old school mentality and gals that hang on to the old school mentality. So when
I don't think there's a directive either. I think it's up to them to decide.
Yeah.
And there would have been a time a few years ago that we couldn't have done an interview like that. It would have been straight character the entire way.
Yep. So you get a guy like Gunther in here, and ordinarily, especially with the biggest of names, it's not like we get to sit down and have a meeting with them before we start the interview and go, hey, kayfabe or not, do you want us to address things happening in the ring or not?
Plus, where's the fun in that? I mean, it takes the spontaneity away.
Yeah.
I love the idea that we don't know until we know.
So,
like with Lacey Evans, we had no idea until we knew.
And when she got into kayfabe, it was great, right?
Same with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD.
Yep.
She was in and out of it.
And I think so. I think, like I said, that there's some folks who just live in kayfabe. There are some folks who don't care about kayfabe at all. And I mean, you heard at the very end of that interview with Gunther when we started talking about Imperium's match tonight on the show, which is a number one contenders match. When we had that conversation with him, he kind of started drifting into kayfabe, you know?
Yeah, I was a little worried when you asked what he yelled to them. I'm like, oh boy.
I like when he went.
Don't ask that question, Rob.
I like when he said, encouragement.
Yes. Because if he were to curse in German, I ain't going to know that. So I would have had to dump it just out of, yeah. So,
and keep in mind, my poor guy Ludwig von Kaiser, when he first showed up with an Imperium, if Ludwig von Kaiser lost a match, he had to stand in front of the crowd and eat a couple of chops.
It's tough love. Gunther. It's tough love, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to know, if I mess up, this is what I got coming, so you don't mess up again.
I got to tell you, if Gunther said either pick up that car or take 3 chops, I'm going to find us some adrenaline, is all I'm saying. All right? I'm going to figure out how to get
what size car are we talking?
Toyota off the ground.
Yeah. What size car? You can bounce a car. Is that enough? I didn't realize how big he truly was until we took a picture at the end. And yeah, which I haven't seen yet. I'm sure I make a stupid face, but that's fine.
You're looking side-eye.
Which is what I wanted. Which is what I wanted to do.
So I also have to tell you, Lonzo, and this happens sometimes. I've just found a lot of motivation to get my ass back in the gym because we talked about
my dude was swole out of that shirt.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, that medium shirt was just about a half a size too small for Gunther.
What you do is you can't help it. You think of you in your prime day when you think you were your best. Not even close. Not close at all.
Close. Well, and it's not just that, but with a guy like Gunther, who those of you who have watched this guy's development over his career, he used to be, and he's not in the building anymore, so I can say it. He was a chunky fella. All right, he was big, and I'm not talking.
He was husky. He wasn't.
You know what he was?
He wasn't fat. He was. I didn't think he was fat. I thought, dude. Remember, I compare any fat person to me, so I never thought he was that fat.
Top pictures.
still, to me,
That dude's over 3. And
Yeah.
Not.
as someone who was close to 4, Rob,
Okay.
over 3 to me is like, yeah, okay.
All right. That dude was big. And now that dude is absolutely shredded. And you know what the heart, you know what sucks? I was like, all right, tell me about the body transformation. How did you end up going from me to what you are now? And he goes, nutrition. I'm like, God, no, I wanted you to say, do 10 bench presses.
All right. So I want to
Squats.
I want to do some inside baseball here. After the Beamer thing, when Rob stole my question, we decided to confer beforehand, and Rob wasn't asking the nutrition question. It was all I could do to not ask it, but because it was because it was Rob's question, I didn't want to steal your question. I just want to point that out. I even gave you the hints that you need to ask that question, and you did.
I do wonder what went through his head when Lonzo was sitting on the other side of the desk, running his fingers up and down his sides.
It just makes me feel all tingly.
All right. Thanks again to Gunther. Thanks again to the WWE for setting that up. Tremendous to have him on the show. Thought it was a spectacular interview. Very much enjoyed him. Him talking about the Intercontinental title. And I wasn't kidding when I said that title to me is the most important title in the history of wrestling. I don't think there's a title that means more to wrestling than that. Not that, the World Heavyweight Championship or Universal Championship are more highly elevated. They absolutely are. But the Intercontinental Championship is effectively a test run for, can you be a main eventer? Can you be a guy who carries the big belt? And I've got to tell you, on day, what is today for him? 286, I think, 289. On day 286 or 289, I think he has done a phenomenal job holding that belt. And I've got exactly zero doubt that we will see that guy as a future WWE World Heavyweight Universal Champion one day.
Yeah, me too. The talk about Brock Lesnar, you could just see it that he really wants that. I want to shout out to radio in general, because there was a time.
Radio, all of us,
all of radio.
Amazing.
I'm shouting out to radio and where it is right now, because there was a time, and I was there, when you couldn't show excitement because you had someone in the building. You couldn't act like you enjoyed yourself. You had to be the stodgy professional. I am going to ask you a question now. Well, thanks to, and I would like to say it's all thanks to nerds and pop culture in general, because the embracing of that has allowed radio to be more real to me. And the fact that you can have a good time talking to someone who's a celebrity, an awesome guy from what we can tell, and I can go, yeah, man, dude, that was awesome, instead of being worried that I'm going to be chastised for enjoying myself in a radio interview. And that was great. That really was. I'm so glad that I came to work today.
Shave said, you mean you couldn't mark out when a wrestler walks in the door? No, so let me tell you. This job, even when I was starting, this is.
By the way, any celebrity, it's not just wrestling. Any celebrity.
I've been doing this for 15 years, and I will tell you that when I started in this gig, I was told very often, very early, by both the guys I worked with and for back in the day, whenever we had like Nick Saban come in or Steve Spurrier come in, guys I interviewed at the front end of my career, it was always like, they're equals, right? And they are. I'm not, listen, Gunther is obviously accomplishing huge things in his life, but when the mic cracks on, yeah, we're talking as two human beings. Doesn't mean it's not still kind of cool to be able to meet somebody like that and have that conversation, right? And I'll tell you,
the other cool thing is tonight we'll be at SmackDown. Come up and say, hey, when he enters the ring,
that's my dog.
I can go, I just talked to that guy a couple hours ago. How cool is that me, the guy from the poor side of Columbus, Ohio, and people thought would never amount to anything, I got to talk to that guy. That's a big deal to me.
When that music hits tonight, I can promise you I will be standing at Imperium attention, because I'm a mark now. I'll tell you one thing that I really did like. We got done with the show, and we took him into the production studio to get him to cut a line for this show and cut a line for Lonzo's show, a liner. Those are the little things that play, when we're going into and out of breaks. Anyway, as we're leaving, if you haven't or don't watch the stream, over behind me on the stream is a flag and a scarf from Charlotte FC, the MLS team that's up in
here we go.
City.
Here we go.
Oh, yes, I'm very excited about this.
Of course.
So we get done with the interview, and he had his backpack against the wall, and he goes to pick it up, and he looks up and he sees the Queen City Brigade scarf and the Charlotte FC flag, and he goes, "Oh, you guys had a fellow Austrian play." And I said, "Yeah, Christian Fuchs." And he goes, "You know him?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got to interview him last year. Phenomenal guy." I said, "He just retired from play, but Christian is on the coaching staff now." And he's like, yeah, I'm a big fan. So as we're walking into the production studios, though, I was like, "Hey, if you guys end up having a show that lines up somewhere around a Charlotte game next year, let me know. I know Amy. Yes, I'm name dropping. I know Amy. She is the PR lady for both the Panthers and Charlotte FC." I said, if you guys have a show next year, and I know I'm throwing dirt in the wind here. Said, if you guys have a show here next year that coincides with a Charlotte FC game, let me know. I'll reach out to her. I bet we can get you hooked up to go to a match. And he goes, "Yeah, absolutely." So the lady that was with us, she's like, "Yeah." So she's got my email. She's like, "If he's back in town for a Charlotte FC match, we'll see if we can get him up there." You'll go watch soccer if we watch with Gunther, won't you?
I don't know. I'd be criticized because it's a sporting event and I'm not going to stand up and cheer or do anything amazing.
Boo.
I'm just going to sit there and watch.
Also, Kevin says he was very quiet on the stream. No, he was very quiet in real life.
So here's some inside baseball as I was being also texted by my boss, but he congratulated me on fixing something, not yelling at me for not fixing something. I know you probably didn't know this, and this is going to shock everyone. This is an extremely loud show. Okay. This is a really loud, and I can say this with authority, the loudest show in its entire building.
I say everything with authority.
There is no doubt. This is, and when I say loud, I mean loud like a Kansas City Chiefs Arrowhead Stadium compared to everybody. Everybody else is a golf show compared to this show. So you bring in a guy in who's soft-spoken, our mics will only go so high. So there are some tricks, and I used my tricks, my know-how to do the best that I could. But he is very, very soft-spoken. And this is the first time we've interviewed anyone that's that soft-spoken. But again, I alert the media, this is the loudest show in the building.
And
If we were on Radio Row, well, actually, you have been, and you were asked to quiet down.
Correct. And again, it's interesting that the guy known for his aura between gorilla in the ring walks in here, and we're like, "Dude, you got to speak up. You got to speak up." Known professional ass kicker.
By the way, we didn't ask him to speak up.
No,
I just adjusted everything. I'm not doing that because that chop would come my way. I mean, you can see a couple times things lighten up in his eyes. I didn't want none of that. So,
Thank you again to Gunther. Thanks again to Stephanie, who was in here with him. Thanks again to the WWE and our boy Roy downstairs for helping us get hooked up. We appreciate everybody who put in the work to make that interview happen and had a blast doing it. We are very grateful. To everybody who is done with wrestling talk, that's okay. We got one more segment. We'll get away from the wrestling. Got a couple of things I want to get in here in the next segment, and then we wrap up our Friday and get ready for SmackDown. He's the great one, Lonzo. My name is Rob Brown. All the things not wrestling up next, and then we'll probably end it with more wrestling. We'll see. Shut up. It's my show. I do what I want. The Rob Brown Show's on the radio. It's the Fan Upstate, y'all. Skrilla said, "Sound guy to sound guy." I synced it.
Hey, I got it. I'll do
We'll be
it.
right back,
I'll do it.
so I can unmute.
Just how you feel about yourself,
I've
doesn't it?
got to go back to the gym, you guys.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, gosh.
Kevin said, I haven't been to a wrestling event in years. That interview has me looking at tickets. Come on, big dog. It's going to be a good time in the well. Steven said, the next interview, we need ACC Karen in studio to keep Rob in check. Oh, ACC Karen.
Wonder if she'll be there for you next year. This is me yawning. I'm yawning right now. You know, and the most important thing is the boss was hyped about the interview.
Very. All right, let's run through all the sports stuff we have not gotten a chance to get to yet. Let's start with this one. We told you that earlier this week, Scott Fitterer went on the record and said that if there is a year for the Carolina Panthers to draft and develop their quarterback of the future, it is this year. But he also went on to say that the NFC South is wide open this year. Said if there's a year for us to make the push to try to snag that thing, it's this year. And he's right? Like we all agree. Tom leaving Tampa, whether it's retirement or to go somewhere else, the Buccaneers are in trouble. The Saints chickens have come home to roost. They are in trouble. Atlanta has still yet to show that they can develop themselves offensively enough to consider themselves a threat to the division. They're in trouble. Carolina is, as I said they would be before the past season started. They are the team best set up to take advantage of the NFC South this year. The question mark is going to be, what is the correct way to go about it, right? Let me ask you this. In the divisional setup, as we see it playing out next year early, Lonzo, if Carolina uses all 8 draft picks on getting a good group, a good young core, and getting them cheap, right? 8 picks. Is Sam Darnold today the best quarterback in the NFC South? You got Blaine Gabbert in Tampa. You've got Desmond Ridder, who was garbage in Atlanta as of today. And you've got probably Andy Dalton, unless the Saints make a play for Derek Carr, which is a possibility. But today, is Sam Darnold the best quarterback in the NFC South?
All right, 10 years ago, I would have taken Andy Dalton over Sam
Sure,
Darnold.
but today.
You're killing me, dude. You are killing me.
Is he the best quarterback in the NFC South right now? Andy Dalton, Blaine Gabbert, Desmond Ridder, Sam Darnold. Who are you taking?
I would say where it stands right now, yes,
Yeah.
but Darnold's not under contract, right? So
No,
he's
but he could be
technically
back.
not.
Here's the thing. Sam, we talked
So
about.
so technically, the starting quarterback for Carolina right now is
Matt Corral?
no. There was another quarterback in there who started a little bit, right? He's still there, right?
Talking about PJ?
Yes.
No.
So
PJ had a shot. Sorry. Love the guy, hard worker.
all right. Would you say? But would you put PJ Walker up against all those guys?
Probably take Andy Dalton first, honestly.
But PJ would be second.
PJ would be.
I'm just saying. I'm just
PJ's
saying.
ahead of Desmond Ridder. He's probably ahead of Blaine Gabbert, but I would not put him ahead of Andy Dalton. So to me, the question is the NFC South going to come down to a literal arms race this year? I think it does, right?
I see what you did there.
See what I did there?
That was good. Man.
Thank you. I worked on that. I workshopped that one overnight. The NFC South is in a literal arms race right now. The team that is able to this offseason get and develop the best quarterback for next year is going to win the division. Here are the threats. The New Orleans Saints are going to be looking for a quarterback, and likely, now that they have a first-round pick, courtesy of the Sean Payton trade to the Denver Broncos, have 2 ways to go about it. Number one, they can wait and see who drops down to 29. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think that Levis is getting that far. I don't think Anthony Richardson's getting that far. So I don't think there is going to be a big haul available for them at 29, which means that they have to roll the dice on a guy who's got a second-round grade in the first round, or they've got a trade to make. Who's available? The 2 big names right now are Derek Carr or Jimmy Garoppolo, right? So Carolina's got a decision to make, and they're going to have to make it sooner rather than later. They can either go ahead right now and commit to drafting a quarterback, which leads them a couple of options. Number one, give a hell of a lot of capital up to jump up because Chicago's looking to move back and get their pick of the litter. Option two is they can let somebody else trade with Chicago up to 1. They can watch Stroud and Young come off the board 1-2, either order. Then they can basically wait and hope to see who drops. If you get down to 5 or 6, and for some insane reason, Stroud or Young are still on the board, spoiler alert, they will not be, then you make the jump. If you get to 5 or 6 and they're both off the board, then you know that it's more than likely either Levis or Richardson is going to be available at 9. Question is, do you move up 4 or 5 spots to get one over the other, or do you stay put at 9 and take whatever's less and roll the dice? Or the one thing that nobody has talked about yet, do you put together a package and go get Jimmy Garoppolo or Derek Carr, have yourself a veteran available to go under center? And even if they're not one of the elite quarterbacks, Jimmy Garoppolo has been to the NFC Championship. Most of us believe that Derek Carr is better than he got the opportunity to show, even with Devontae in Vegas this year. Do you grab one of the vets and roll on? The interesting thing about that, Zoe, and then I want your thoughts and Panthers fans out there listening thoughts on this. Frank Reich at Indianapolis went through a string of veteran quarterbacks, and a lot of folks think it cost him his job. He is probably, if there is a coach, not going to be high on making a trade for a vet quarterback to come in and take over that offense. Frank Reich is on that group, which makes me think they're going to lean into the draft. The problem is, outside of Young or Stroud, there's not a quarterback in this draft that I think would definitively be better than Jimmy Garoppolo next year. And the division is wide open next year. Get Jimmy G, plug him under center, and win the damn division.
All right. Before I comment, I just want you guys to know that going into the next break, we've got our final 4-pack of Furman basketball tickets to give away. So stay tuned. In the next 10 minutes or so, we will be going to break and we'll be giving those tickets away. If you want butts and seats in the bank, you want people to show up, then you sell out. You show that you're willing to do what it takes to go up and get CJ Stroud. That's what you do. Even if it takes all 8 picks, you put them in. I know the Ditka thing happened. It definitely did. But the Ditka thing wasn't for a quarterback. It was for a stoner running back. So the thing is, if you want instantly, if you trade all of your picks or 6 of them or however many it takes to go up to 1 to get CJ Stroud, the bank is full. Like that day, people are buying tickets that day to see this. And you as an ownership are showing that you're willing to do that. As far as the retreads, it's already been done. I love Jimmy Garoppolo, by the way. They should have went for him instead of Baker probably. And I think things might have worked out a little bit better. And also Carr last night in the skills competition, the dude killed it.
Wait.
And
I'm
yes,
glad you
I
said
know
that.
it. I know it's his house, but he killed it. And he had attitude and he was still graceful.
Can you
But
go ahead and grab me clip 3 real quick? Can you grab me clip 3? Last night's Pro Bowl skills competition in the quarterback accuracy challenge. Derek Carr toe it up from the flow up. And then they said, D. Carr, you had a good night. And he said this. Nice.
yeah, and we were watching that live last night. I was like, dude.
Did you enjoy it? I had fun.
All right. I enjoyed the quarterback competition because I've always enjoyed seeing
Enjoy
the
dodgeball.
accuracy, the dodgeball.
I love dodgeball.
No. The rule, they changed the rules. If you go play dodgeball, you play by dodgeball rules.
I don't disagree. I did hate that they took the catch ball replace
Right,
player rule out of play.
Right,
I did hate
because
that.
a lot of people were eliminated because of catch balls, and they should have been able to bring people back
Right.
in. And other than that, yeah, I mean, when Christian McCaffrey was up there on the being interviewed, you could tell he was ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
And there was intensity there. He's ready to play.
There was only one guy. Now who was it? It was one of the D linemen that they asked. They were like, "You having a good time?" He's like, "Honestly, I'd rather play football." Right? He's like, "I took the Pro Bowl seriously. I'd rather play football, but we're having a good time. That's all that mattered." Like, yeah, I get it, but here's the thing. The Pro Bowl got half-assed by 90% of the players, and that's okay. It was literally just an all-star exhibition game for ridiculous athletes to do ridiculous things.
And that one guy who always showed up and tried to play.
Correct. And then that one guy. Now, I will tell you this. There are some events I didn't love last night, all right? The water balloon toss, I could have done with that. I could have replaced that with something else. I could have replaced that. You know what I would have loved to have seen? I don't know if they can get away with this. You know what I thought about as I was sitting there trying to come up with events I would rotate in and out and change out? Take the water balloon toss out and put in the old American Gladiators jousting, but linemen only.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me you wouldn't watch the hell out of that.
Yeah, that would end up in fights, but still, which would be entertaining for us, for sure.
Put them over a big foam pit, put them on 2 columns,
give
them giant Q-tips, and let them go to
There's
town.
also a good shot that someone gets hurt. So they're not going to do that because of that.
Imagine if instead of the water balloon toss, what if they paid to buy the old, remember the American Gladiator obstacle course where the gladiator stood up there with a tennis ball gun and tried to shoot the dudes as they ran? And they had to like take Nerf guns and shoot and hit the target to eliminate the gladiator or make it to the end. Give me that, but defensive linemen only. Right?
I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
Also, I like the longest drive. I did.
The longest drive was fun.
I like the guy. There are a couple of those guys. I watched YouTube videos. I thought that was great. And if you look,
the Raiders punter went, "My name is so-and-so.
Yeah, you look at the field.
Ball hitter, 8-ball drinker." I was like, "That's my dog."
Yeah, but you look at the field and you're like, okay, the white dude, the kicker, that guy's going to win. And he almost did until the last golfer got up there. And it's like, oh. And when he was talking about his handicap and all that kind of stuff, like, my dude can play.
Those boys, I'm not boating you, hit the ball 80 yards further than I do. And I've been golfing my entire life. And they outdrive me by 80 yards. It's like, damn.
So the best catch is just a setup thing. It can't be easy, but still, that's basically
it's the NFL's dunk competition.
Yeah.
And I'm for it. That's not one I would get rid of. I think that one's fun to me. I would not get rid of dodgeball. I would.
You know why that's only fun? It's more fun if they did it live and only got one attempt. I mean, we don't know how many attempts it took to get. I mean, the zip line thing, they showed him failing the first time. And when you got Jimmy Clausen throwing, what the heck is Jimmy Clausen throwing a ball for?
Who's my guy that got stuck with Matt Leinart throwing on Vegas?
Wouldn't you rather have Leinart throwing to you than Jimmy Clausen?
That's fair. I thought it was fun.
It's weird. Jimmy Clausen's head doesn't look squished anymore. When it came out, his head would look squished. Did something happen and expanded?
I do not know.
He's on that TB12 thing where your forehead gets bigger. That must be what it is.
I have no idea. All right. So I thought the skills competition was fun. Like I said, I probably dumped the water balloon toss. The quarterback accuracy challenge was great. I thought that was fun. The long drive contest was great. I thought that was fun. I thought the best catch contest is fun. I think it could be sharpened and polished. But yeah, I would go for American Gladiators NFL All-Stars edition, and I think that would be incredible. Anyway, so blah blah blah. We don't know what the direction the Panthers are going, but it sure does sound to me like there's a move up in the draft coming. But we are just about a month and a half away, so we'll find out, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let me get you one more story. The Clash at the Coliseum is coming up this Sunday. 2:05 is the green flag time, if I recall correctly, as NASCAR gets its first competitive race of the season underway. Now, for those of you that are loose NASCAR fans, there are some rule changes this year. And the very first one, Lonzo, no more Hail Melons.
Yeah, because those things are those are horrible for the sport.
You don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
A hair melon?
A Hail Melon.
Okay, because I thought you said a hair melon.
No,
that's something totally different.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because that's one you just go ahead and throw in the trash. You don't want none of that.
A Hail Melon is what they are calling last year. Ross Chastain, very famous for it when he wins races. He smashes a watermelon on the start finish line. Last year, Ross Chastain won a race by going all video game on it, putting his car on the wall, letting go of the steering wheel, stomping the accelerator, and 50-mile-an-hour blazing by the dudes ahead of him to pick up enough points.
So
to
they're
transfer
taking
to
the fun
playoffs.
out of it. They're taking the fun out of it.
It is a safety enhancement decision.
What's the melon have to do with it? The race is over, right?
The melon is because Ross Chastain smashes watermelons when he wins races.
Right, but
So
the
they
race,
called it the Hail Melon because it was a Hail Mary to win the race.
but the race is over, right?
Right. He can still smash melons. He can't put his car on the wall and stomp the gas and go
Oh,
video
okay,
game around
okay.
everyone.
Those were connected,
Sorry.
and I lost it.
Yes. So they can he can still smash watermelons. He can no longer do the Hail Mary / melon by putting his car on the wall, stomping the gas, and riding the wall around like he did last year. The NASCAR spokesperson in charge said, quote, "This is not new language. Basically, if there's an act that we feel is compromising the safety of our competitors, officials, spectators, we're going to take that seriously. We will penalize for that act going forward." Basically, it would be a lap or time penalty at the end of the race. That move at Martinsville will be a penalty in 2023. Some of the other rules that are going on this year. This one I think has been a long time coming. Losing a wheel will no longer be a 4-race suspension to the crew chief and 2 crew members. It will be a 2-race suspension for 2 crew members if it happens beyond pit road. So if you drop a wheel, it rolls off into the road. You're not going to lose your crew chief for 4 races. If it goes outside of pit road, then you will lose 2 crew members for 2 races. I think that is much better. NASCAR is, and I think this is a long time coming, ditching stage breaks at road courses. Now, you will still be eligible to win stage points at road courses, but they will be doing away with the precautionary artificial caution at the end of stages. The end of stages, points will be awarded, but the green flag will stay up. NASCAR will now give teams 7 minutes on pit road to work on their cars if they are damaged in an accident. It used to be 6 minutes before being increased to 10 for the Cup playoffs. They're getting an extra 60 before they've got to garage it. Restart zones will be increased by 50 to 25% more room before the start-finish line and 25% more at the end. So you're going to have a larger restart zone, which means that guys can get on the gas earlier and hit the start line with a little bit more speed. The rule change goes into effect for the first 5 events of the season, and then they will make the decision on whether or not it will go for the rest of the year after that. NASCAR has removed the top 30 in points requirements for drivers trying to make the playoffs. You will be required to participate in every event unless you are granted a waiver, which are basically only granted for injuries or personal emergencies. The Clash for the Coliseum is going to see something interesting, less of a rule, more of a change, but they're actually going to stick mufflers on those cars because I guess inside of a football stadium, they are loud as bleep, and they're going to stick some mufflers on there. They will also use new recording systems in cars that will provide more powerful crash data. And again, this is a safety thing, right? Car hits the wall, they want to know where the majority of the impact came from, what the G-forces are, et cetera, so that they can continue to develop those cars in the aspects of driver safety that they have really been kind of looking at. And they are expanding the number of events where they will run in the rain. Used to be there were, I think, 5 events that the rain packages were allowed to be used if it got damp outside. This year, they will include the LA Coliseum this weekend for the Clash, Lucas Oil Raceway in Indy, Martinsville, Milwaukee, New Hampshire, North Wilkesboro, Phoenix, and Richmond will all allow the rain tires and windshield wiper hookups in the car so that they can run those if it gets a little wet. The rest of the tracks will be dry race only conditions. That's NASCAR. As we get set for the Clash at the Coliseum, we will have that full breakdown for you of that race coming up on Monday. Texter says, Rob, the Panthers need to be like Shane and build from the inside out and don't blow it all on QB1. The more I have thought about it, and this is going to be a disagreement that Lonzo and I will be having, I'm sure, on the next edition of the Views from Mid Street podcast, available where major podcasts are found on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, Google Play, or free on the Odyssey app. The closer we get to the draft, the more my solution is go get Jimmy G, save as many draft picks as you can, build the team through the draft. And the reason why I say that, Lonzo, and I'm very excited about this pod where you get to pretend like you're not a Kansas City fan for a day, is that the Kansas City Chiefs have been the best drafting team of the past 10 years, and you're about to play for another Super Bowl.
I can't pretend like I'm not a Kansas City fan. I can't do that. But I'm also a Carolina Panthers fan.
Correct.
But trade everything and get CJ Stroud. I don't care. You're not going to convince me. You're not. And I'm not the only one who thinks that.
No, you're not. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying I disagree with that concept, right?
Doesn't mean that the concept is wrong. If they do all that, CJ Stroud comes in and they win the South, well, you say, yeah, but the South is just really bad. It has nothing to do with CJ Stroud being really good.
I will not say it has nothing to do with CJ Stroud. I will say Jimmy Garoppolo would be the best quarterback in the NFC South right now, and it would not be particularly close.
By the way, you're absolutely right.
So
Jimmy
not?
Garoppolo would be if he stays healthy. He's been hurt a couple times.
I don't disagree. That's a risk.
And there's also, when you do something a certain way a few times and it doesn't work, I think it makes you a little more worried about it, the same thing happening to you.
And for
I'm
the
talking about
record,
the Panthers as an organization.
Sure. And Frank Reich as a coach right now. He didn't have the control, or at least he doesn't feel like, or he doesn't sound like he had the control in Indianapolis that he wanted to over the guy. But Indy went to multiple back-to-back-to-back vet QBs, and none of them really were able to push his team back into the playoffs like he made twice in the beginning of his career as the HC in Indy. And that's a problem. So my thought is they're absolutely going to draft a quarterback. I'm not saying they're not going to draft a quarterback, Lonzo. I'm saying they should go get Carr or Garoppolo for, well, actually, Carr, you're not going to have to pay anything. You're not going to have to trade anything. He's going to be a free agent. You have to pay him, but you paid Bake, right? You're going to have to pay Carr. Garoppolo, same story. You don't even have to trade for these guys. It doesn't cost you a draft pick. It's going to cost you outbidding everybody else. But here's the thing. What other teams right now are going to be searching for a quarterback in free agency? Not Houston, not Chicago, none of the top draft picks. Seattle's probably happy to keep Geno around for one more year, right? Like, what other teams are going to be pushing for a quarterback? Carolina, New Orleans, Green Bay's got their guy. I would say Tampa. I would say 3, maybe all 4 of the NFC South teams are going to be pushing for quarterbacks. Whoever gets the best one, whether it's CJ or Bryce or Jimmy G or Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers, whoever gets the best of that group is going to win this division and go to the playoffs next year.
Yeah, James points out, and he's right, they did trade up to get a certain quarterback that they have right now. Don't forget that.
And I'm still furious because if they wouldn't have done that, he'd have been a New Orleans Saint.
And the other thing is, other than Aaron Rodgers coming in, I think you got to draft. You just absolutely have to. And the other thing is, Carolina Panthers has the best team, in my opinion, and you may disagree. If you take the quarterback out of it, who's got the best team?
Carolina.
Right.
Yeah, Carolina.
I mean, you could say Tampa Bay, but
in terms of talent, Carolina.
Right. And how many of those guys in Tampa Bay are going to be there next year?
There's going to be a few bailing, for sure. They're going to have to cut a bunch because they are also, just like New Orleans, well over the cap. By the way, had the Chiefs not traded up to that 10 spot in the, I know I said this already, but I got to say it again because it still hurts. Had the Chiefs not traded up to the 10 spot in that 2017 draft, Sean Payton said very loudly and repeatedly that he was taking Patrick Mahomes at 11. We'd have had a very different view of our football teams right now.
Absolutely, we would. Don't forget, we got something to give away right now.
Hey, let's give away a family 4-pack of tickets to this Saturday's Furman basketball double header. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got the women's game at 3. You've got the men's game at 6, and we've got your opportunity to see both of them live and in living cover. Our friend Tiger Pal Rachel, P1 of the show, won our 4 tickets yesterday. She is Jack. She's a Furman grad, excited to go see her basketball team play. If you would like to take you and 3 other people to go see the doubleheader tomorrow, be caller number.
I'm dressed in tie-dye today. That means peace and love. That means 2.
Caller number 2 right now to 844-326-3663. 844-326-3663. Second caller right now is winning a family 4-pack of tickets to tomorrow's Furman basketball doubleheader live at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, going to go to break while Alonzo gets some information. We'll be right back. Don't go nowhere. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we is back. New Orleans has the salary cap turned off. I wish we just kept kicking that can down the road for damn ever.
Don't you reach the end of the road eventually? If you're kicking the can down the road. You ever kicked the can down the road?
I don't think I've ever actually kicked a can. No.
I have, but
Yeah?
it may be an age thing. A little bit of litter in the neighborhood, you know. I think you see a can on the side of the road and you're walking on the road in your neighborhood, you got to kick it. I think you just got to do that. least that's how it used to be. You know, these kids these days probably wouldn't put the effort into it. Wouldn't want to stub your toe or something.
Do you think the belt was in that backpack? I didn't have the stones to ask. I wanted to, but I didn't have the stones to ask.
I doubt it. There's only one person who would put their belt in a backpack, and he works for a different company. It's so weird. You know, the show's over, dude. I mean, this was a fast show. Time for Twitter trending topics, where I tell Rob what is trending, and then we'll have a little time for wrestling. The first thing that's trending is the day the music died.
Bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the. This is the day that Buddy Holly, along with the Big Bopper Richie Valens and.
The Big Bopper and Richie Valens are two different guys. You know
Yeah,
that, right?
but there was one other person in that plane. The Big Bopper, Richie Valens, and
Was there?
Yeah, I think there
Because
was.
those are
one
the
more.
only ones that I ever remember.
I think I may have just been the pilot. Anyway, were killed in a plane crash, which was forever obviously immortalized in the Don McLean song "American Pie." Is the day the music died. It's been referred to as that ever since. I will tell you this: Buddy Holly is a guy that anytime, like, on my list of favorite musicians of all time, but anytime you ask me my favorite musicians, I never think Buddy Holly. He is. I saw in England, as a matter of fact, when I was an early teenager, a play.
It's what 1%ers do.
I travel the world about Buddy Holly and the Crickets, and that turned me on to early rock and roll, right? Like Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, Richie Valens, those guys. And I've been a fan of Buddy Holly's ever since. I've loved Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Anyway, today is, I believe, the anniversary of that plane crash.
Yes, today was the day the music died. One more. Bye, Felicia is trending.
Bye, Felicia.
I don't know why, but I just wanted to
Because
say
it
bye,
is-
Felicia.
Anybody that is around my age, when they leave a place, will inherently say bye, Felicia. One of the greatest walkout lines of all time. It still gets said. I used to have a shirt years ago that had a picture of like a religious looking lady on it, and it said Saint Felicia, patron of farewells. It was one of my favorite shirts to wear. But to this day, when Rob Brown is done with the conversation, he will hit you with a bye, Felicia.
Okay, the last thing that's trending is, I don't know if you knew this, we had Gunther in it right here.
Right
over there. He was
phenomenal.
right over there.
By the way, you're going to hear some lines coming up that we asked him to record for promos for the show, and he very happily did. Very nice guy. Was more than willing to do
That
it.
the boss wrote, and I got a problem with one of them, but that's
One
fine.
of them says, "This is Gunther, the Ring General." You're listening to the Upstate Pulse. I hate that guy, Lonzo. He deserves a chop. And I want you to know, when he recorded that line, the first time he read it, he couldn't get through it without laughing at the idea of putting a chop on Lonzo. I will also tell you, for the haters out there, that I asked him, do you chop radio dudes if asked? And he went, absolutely not. You are not a trained professional.
Yes, he did. And we had a discussion about legality and
Yeah.
his and the person that was
Miss
Stephanie
Stephanie, who was a
was-
total
yeah.
sweetheart, by the way.
Yeah, she was like, yeah, that's
she
what
looked
it
up
is.
and she goes,
Yeah,
absolutely
they
not.
can't do that.
It is she goes, I am putting the hammer down. I'm like, no, you don't have to worry. I wasn't doing it anyway.
Even with all the cash that was coming your way, it would have been a good Friday for you. Would have been a good Friday for you.
60, a conglomeration of all of my listeners, all of them, put together a whopping $60
Well-
for me to take a chop from the guy who has literally made a career in wrestling on beating the hell out of grown men by doing that.
See you guys tonight.
$60.
See you guys tonight at
60.
SmackDown.
That's what my whole listening audience wrangled up was $60.
Well, no, they only put 455. I threw a 5 in, so it was only 55.
$55, and then Lonzo was going to contribute $5. Awesome.
I would have skipped a meal for that because,
The
you know,
next-
radio.
The next time somebody says, Rob, you should know your worth. Apparently it's $55. We're out. See you back here Monday on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Bye, Felicia. I don't know if you guys know this, but this show is fun to do. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show. On Monday, we'll have a full breakdown of SmackDown. I will also tell you that I haven't said this to him yet, but at some point in the very near future, Lonzo and I's wrestling pod is going to start up as well. Just a
Yay.
heads up. Just
Yay.
an FYI. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. You guys are the best. We will see you back here on Monday.
And tonight.
And tonight at the Well, if you're going to be there. If you do, come say hi. I will be in 113.
I also will be in 113.
All right, section 113. Come say hi. We'd love to see you. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.